Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, crypto and thanks button in the info box below the video. Speaking of Patreons, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon. So a massive shout out of thanks and appreciation to Giuseppe Montesano, Jimmy Soup, Mitch Kennedy, Original D-Rose, Rod, The Name's Burley, Twad Wazzle, Jason Hornsby, Christoph Fournier, Flat Earth Travolta, J Melds 24, Unimento, M Iron 26, Endless, Goldie McKiernan, Retro Bill, More Books, Cannabear, Bogey, Michael Kahn, John Kays, Patrick Gunnels, Banter, Mel B Styles, Hairy Blade, Mobile Max 777, Rob W, Reese Pound, Dal West Watson, Maria Neelands, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, Abraham Mohammed, Skeptic 936, Life is Short, Texas Mike, Tina Baker, David Wayne Foster, and Dank. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. And now I'll hand over to whoever is in Discord and Google so you can enjoy their dulcet tones while I set up for today's live show.
My favorite's Bad Guy, though. Bad Guy, that's my favorite.
Yeah,
and to see her create it when she did her and her brother showed the creation of it on her little documentary short, it was impressive. Right out of the bedroom, right out of their bedroom. And they just took it to a master mix engineer and just took it from there. I love to hear about stories like that. That's that raw, authentic, creativity.
And in case you forgot, you still got to be in Discord too, Nathan.
Go on Discord yet? Okay, there we go.
Yeah, my daughter told me who that was before you said it. I was like, what the heck is that? And she was like, that's Billie Eilish, Dad.
I actually thought it was somebody that was near a loved one who didn't know the mic was on.
No. It's just my eldest daughter wanted to hear Billie Eilish before the show started. That was all.
I actually thought it was D Rose, like being a scotch.
Being a scotch.
So what's on the menu today?
Do you think it's a coincidence, or there's going to be a wave of people like 50, Chike, some more, just going to pop on there? Because this, it's funny because
maybe
Chike said the same thing that I think 50 did. The Earth is a globe. That's how they opened it up to be obnoxious, and then that's when it went on.
That's what all bloggers do. All of them do that. You might have forgotten because we don't have ballers come on the show that much anymore. But they all do that.
The aardvarks are people too. They're refractive. Oh, he ain't on here. We're talking about Aaron. You saw it. Did you read it, Aaron? I had my own little. Y'all might have said it before. I said the antecedent to the globe Earth assertion is the acknowledgement of the existential measurement of a flat Earth. That was a good saying.
Right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, in order to create a globe model, you need flat Earth measurements. That's how I like to say it.
Speaking of measurements and Billie Eilish,
I was trying to sound.
there's certain aspects of Billie Eilish's album that I can't stand. Not because it's not good music, it is. It's very good. In fact, I really like her stuff. But because it's produced in her bedroom, I know you guys back in the day can remember me babbling on about room acoustics all the time. Well, it's coming up for my birthday in a couple of days' time, and one of the things I'm getting is a couple more panels, right? Well, the reason is to make the acoustics better. Well, when I listen to Billie Eilish's album, I can hear the specific frequencies that she can't, because her room's obviously not that well treated. So there's certain acoustic peaks and humps in her tracks. I could probably, if I wanted to, I could go back and reverse engineer how big the room that she was in was based on the peaks and troughs. There we go. Other than that, you can't fault the music, just the production.
And Nathan, you're right on point. You got an excellent ear. That's what I was saying. That's why I had known that it was. I didn't know it was done out of the bedroom, but I could tell it was like not comparable to the other commercial music of the better, like engineer, like from Tommy Maserati and all the guys like that I know of New York that give you that state of the art.
Right on the edge, though. It's
engineering.
It's on the edge. So to a detriment, depending on how you look at it, it's too bassy. So that is a fairly typical characteristic of a room that's got to suck out of a certain bass frequency. You don't notice that it's there because your room's not giving it to you. So when you record it and then play it back in the room, it sounds great. Then you go and play it on something else, and suddenly there's this massive peak of bass. But it's reasonably complementary to the music. Yeah, it makes the door panels in the car rattle, which is irritating, so I have to turn the bass down. And I've even got myself a little Billie Eilish EQ, so I cut out those frequencies. But nevertheless, the point is that you get fussy about those sorts of things when you know what to look for. And when my wife first bought me the album, because I had no idea she was, me and my wife buy each other a lot of music, and we often have no idea what it is. We'll just see it on a shelf or order it online, and we don't even know who the album maker is. You just take a chance on it if it's popular. So Billie Eilish was one of those examples, and she just gave it to me for a birthday or a Christmas or whatever, not knowing what it was, and I stuck it on, and immediately I'm like, something wrong with this production. It's just not quite right, and started explaining to my wife what I could hear that was wrong. So we started looking into who she was and how the music was produced, and then, like you've suggested already, we found out it was basically produced in a home studio. And there's nothing wrong with that, but it's like, now that the room's been treated, my room's been treated, you can really hear stuff like that. Not so much in the car, other than it rattling the panels, which it shouldn't really do. But yeah, it's just, it makes me smile that I'm at that point in this room where I'm very pleased and I can start thinking about stuff like that as of yesterday, which I won't mention why. But there's a specific thing that stopped needing attention, and I now can turn my attention to other things. So literally yesterday, I got back in touch with GIK. I'm like, do you remember you were asked to give me a quote a while back? Actually, I want to buy those now, because I can start actually thinking about putting panels on walls rather than, well, let's just say it, rather than looking at IDA and PC temperatures. Anyway, so
Good morning.
I can bore you all with acoustic panels for the next couple of weeks rather than computers. Fun, fun, fun.
It actually won't bore,
Oh, and by the way,
me because I like that kind of stuff. I told you I like the design of your intended
3D
panels that you got now.
They're 3D cubes. Well, the one behind me is going to change. So the very first panel I bought to go behind me was a really deep acoustic panel. But when I put it up, because none of the rest of the room was treated, where I sat suddenly felt really claustrophobic and uncomfortable, because it was just this one corner where I sit that was sucking up all the sound, and it was bizarre. So like out in the room ahead of me is a normal echoey, reverberant room, but just behind me is totally dead, and it was just weird. So I ended up changing it to a much, much thinner panel just to make it seem more uncomfortable. But now the rest of the room is treated, it's the other way around. I can actually hear stuff bouncing off behind me through the thin panel. So I'm going to change that and put that behind the door, the one that's behind me now. So technically there will actually be albeit very, very, very subtle visual change, which is to say the panel behind me will move forward 6 inches. But other than that, you won't probably even notice that it's changed when I change it. But the room will be a little bit more treated for £300 or whatever the 2 panels I've bought cost. 350 quid, I think they were.
Well, let me tell you what a Grammy Award winning producer that was producing me, the old head, Grammix of DST. Now I'm using a Newman 47. This is like a $20,000 microphone. All he had around me was those acoustic foams, big block ones, standing behind me, right behind me, and to the right and left of me, because the back of the Newman is already a dead input portion of that mic. So anything behind it does good. And
so it's treating around you. Yeah. So if you're treating it on a wall, the ideal is to treat off the wall, which is to say that you want to space the panel off the wall with an air gap behind. Now in a studio, you've got like often panels that are on wheels, on casters. I used to have them back when I was working at Cord. So we had in the top of the building, in like a little, I say little, it was absolutely enormous. It took up the whole building on one floor. But there was these acoustic panels on giant casters. So you could physically roll them. And they're massive. They're like, I don't know, 6 foot by 10 foot or something. And you just moved them into whatever position you wanted them. And that's what that's typically what they do in a recording studio. So the room might actually be quite reverberant and reflective if it's a live room, an actual recording room. And then, like you say, you physically move panels around the musician that you're recording, or not. You might want some of the room sound. It's only when you're engineering after you've recorded that you want rid of that. And most engineers, i.e. the people doing the mixing, want rid of all of that because they just want a clean, dry track to be able to add their own reverberant sound effects to. That's what the engineer does, right? So if he's getting it with already room sounds in there, they're normally annoyed. But that's not necessarily the vision of the recording engineer. But sometimes they're the same people and blah, 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 blah. The point being that, yes, you're absolutely right. Once you move a panel around somebody, the sound that goes through that panel is then dissipated, then it hits the wall, then it bounces back, and then is dissipated on its way back in to reach the microphone at a very limited rate at that point. But only because you've got panels all the way around you that they're, like I say, soaking up sound on the way out through the panel to then hit the wall, come back, go back into the panel to come back and very, like I say, have a limited effect on the mic. But for most people like me, you can't do that. I can't just roll a load of acoustic panels around me. I mean, I'm already trapped by electronics. Anyway.
And I'm sure you're using a condenser mic, right? You're not using like a Shure 58 type of stage mic.
No, it is a condenser mic. It's not a dynamic mic.
Okay.
But I'm using an outdoor mic, so I would what I use is typically what you would see outside. So like someone with a big furry sausage on a stick. That's the type of mic that I actually use.
Gotcha.
Don't normally use those inside unless you've got a very, very well treated room. So I have got a very well treated room, so I'm happy to use that particular mic because I just like the sound of it. And I like the fact that it rejects off-axis sounds. So you coming into the side of the microphone are rejected naturally by the design of the mic. Like ambient sounds outdoors are designed to be rejected by the mic, and just a very narrow focus of where the sound comes from. So sometimes when I, like that, talk off to one side, you'll lose quite a lot of my voice because the pattern of the mic is quite narrow. But that's what I want. I don't want it to pick up my kids, the lawnmower outside. So sometimes I'm like, bloody hell, lawnmower, and you guys, I can't hear it. Good, because that means the mic I've picked is doing its job correctly. It's rejecting anything off axis. But yeah, a singer will normally, unless they're in a really well-controlled studio, they'll have a dynamic mic so they can get it right up to their mouth, and that's the way they reject all the other sounds. That's normally our stage as opposed to in a studio. Anyway, I don't know how we got on this conversation. It's Billie Eilish that's caused this.
You love sound.
I do. That's that and Flat Earth. Yeah, I like audio. I'm colourblind, so the visual world is of a lower importance to me and often irritates me when people describe things that I don't understand, or I attempt to describe them embarrassingly and get them wrong. You know what I mean? My kids have no shame about it either when I get something wrong in regards to colours. they look at me like I'm stupid and will tell me like I'm stupid too.
Well, I'm sort of colorblind when it comes to navy blue and black, and it depends on the lighting in the room too. I've always been like that. Like I like, my wife be like, that doesn't match. Those are black shoes. Like, well, this is black pants. No, they're not. Well, I'll pick out a navy blue suit and say this would go great with a black tie. What are you talking about? It's not a black suit. It's a navy blue suit. But other colors I'm good with. But navy blue always part, especially that deep, deep, deep navy blue, like those pea coats. Forget about it. I'm done.
Fair enough. Yes, it was a good show. It was good to have Chaiki back on. As irritating as the fundy anti-flat earthers we encounter, will yammer straight through the middle of anything that's being put to them that opposes their worldview.
I thought it was. I thought it was kind of. It was in a way funny, in a way sad. That he admitted that he had to get his measurements from sea level, and then he thought he had an argument beyond that.
But that dogged
Kinda
determination
sad.
was a 2015, maybe 16 and into 17 attitude that did get them by. To ridicule a flat earther when they're like, what do you mean sea level? Doesn't that mean it's flat? When the flat earther doesn't have the confidence to say that is a flat earth that you are utilizing, that's the end of the argument. We're not going any further. Back in those years, the argument hadn't progressed to that point where a flat earther, in general, to stereotype, would be confident enough to stop the conversation at that point and just laugh at the opponent and go, you're proving a flat earth. Because the opponent might have the confidence to say level doesn't mean curved and then just carry on regardless. And by that point, the flat earther back then would have been bamboozled and the argument would have been completed and that particular aspect would have been neglected to get highlighted and nobody would point out that that's the point, that the flat earth has been proven and there's no point going on beyond that. We do it now in 2023, but back then that wasn't the case. And just utilizing a flat earth for a certain aspect of your globe proof would have been perfectly sound from both sides of the coin, from both flat earth and globe earth. It would have slipped by the flat earther and the globe earther wouldn't have realized he's actually using a flat earth to make his argument. Weirder.
When you have to, good morning. When you have to change the definition of a word, where in all other contexts it could only mean what it is, but when you say level doesn't mean curve or level, whichever way they want to do it, like Chaiki did. If you're going to take a curved item and call it level, who's going to talk to you? It doesn't even make any sense. What basis do you have?
Even when we give him, the flat earth, the first thing he did was to say, can we all agree that the line of sight is straight and bent?
Yeah.
That was his next move.
Yeah, the Akumu virus move. He wanted to do the Akumu virus move.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
that's what happened that's what happened with virus when he came on and he wanted to use the eye line horizon horizontal at your eye line. And I remember asking him, well, is that straight? And how far is it straight? And he low pause and he had to say, well, it's straight all the way.
Hey, he even said, why don't you walk me through it? Just like a Kumu virus. If you listen, you'll hear him say, why don't you walk me through it?
Well, just for the audience, if it's straight all the way to what? Oh, the GP of the star.
Well, he was haunted by the archangel Black Swan, right? So maybe the reason his hesitation in that instance came about was because you're asking him if there's a straight line. They don't have any straight lines as of the Black Swan. And it was very much, excuse me, prevalent in the mind's eye of your average anti-flat earther at that particular point in time. No straight lines to anything. What do you flat earthers think it is? No atmosphere day. Are you idiots? That's what we got
Well,
told
that-
when we were pointing out that there is no geometric horizon. You can't draw a straight line to your tangent point that you used to claim block boats and buildings. You can't anymore because we've shown you the Black Swan. And then when you tell us all lines are always refracted, it's standard. Atmosphere's always there. Lines are always bent. Enter Akumu. We've got a straight line. Oh, yeah. Straight line, you say? How straight is straight? Well, let's just all agree, back to Chaiki, that all lines are straight and bent.
Well, back to the reason the refracted argument is a win. Well, how'd you ever measure it in the first instance? You need a tangent. You need a line. You need a point of tangency. How'd you ever do it?
They didn't.
Right. So if you're going to make a claim of 3959 and you're going to make a claim that your eyeline horizon, a horizontal, level, straight line, and then there's sea level, another horizontal straight line. And the difference between them becomes, as John puts it clearly, their earth curve, the depression angle. You're dealing with two straight lines to say something's bent or curving, but nothing's bent or curving.
Yeah, outside, it was quite good. So I had loads and loads of amplifier woes. That was the last thing before computer woes. And as a result, I replaced all of my amps, right? And got rid of the old ones for peanuts. Anyway, that aside, with a bit of help from the same guy who bought me the PC, Paul, I got some new amplifiers, right? And I also got a couple of second-hand ones. But what I wanted at the end of that was to have a whole stack of them so that I could have a spare. Now, one of the second-hand ones came with an already blown capacitor, but only on one channel. So I've since been using it on one of the channels that isn't, having a blown capacitor problem. But I've been looking on eBay periodically and having alerts set up so that if another one comes up, I can hopefully snag it for cheap. The idea being that I want to snag one when it's available, because if I can get it cheap second-hand, it's actually more cost-effective to directly replace what I have with a second-hand one than it was to repair the old ones. As an example, the one that I've just bought, because it was from a charity, so somebody had bought this amplifier into a charity, and the charity's obviously got no way of testing it beyond plugging it in. So I haggled with them. I'm like, well, I'm taking a risk that it might turn on, the light might come on, but it might actually work. Now, saying that, I haven't actually tested that it does work yet, other than what they've done, which is turn on the light. But I got it for like £150, where they retail for about £600 new. They're like, brilliant. So I've now got a spare. So I'm going to slot that in over the weekend, take the old one out and get Craig to hopefully swap the capacitor that's blown. And then the one that's had the repair will become my spare, if that makes sense. So now I'm in a position where I've got a spare channel actually in the rack, ready to just have a wire swapped over, and it takes 5 minutes. If a channel blew now, within 5 minutes I could replace it, although that's not true because the replacement's got a blown cap. But, that will be true once that gets swapped. And I'll also have a spare physical box in case, two channels go, then I can just substitute out one of the boxes and, get the other one repaired, or find another one for 150 quid. Whereas last time it was costing me 500 quid a pop just to get each amp repaired, and I was left without equipment. I was underutilizing my equipment because something's out for repair, which means it's not working or functioning at that time. Now, completely opposite. I've got redundancy in the rack and redundancy in the form of a spare box, all for pennies on the dollar compared to the old stuff. So yes, it's nowhere near as nice and refined. It buzzes and it's a bit noisy, and I always knew that would be the case. There's going to be, quality sacrifices that I'm happy to make for the sake of reliability, which is what I've got, and redundancy. So I just thought I'd mention that as well. I've been treating myself to stuff because it's coming up to my birthday, and when you get a certain age, you don't get birthday presents anymore. You just what you buy yourself. If you want to buy something for yourself, that's maybe others as well. My opportunity to do that. hence panels and second-hand amps.
Well, the ballers are shaking in their boots that your extra time that was spent on audio and sound related things is not going to be freed up for more demolishing. So
no, it will be. It just means that if I'm not spending 24/7 testing and tuning a computer that's not quite reliable, if I'm not doing that, I've got free time to do other things, i.e. pleasurable things, spend time with my family and kids first and foremost, because that's been the first thing that gets neglected. As sad as it is to say, that's just the way it goes when you become up against time restraints. Unfortunately, the things that probably are the most detrimental to you are the things you sacrifice first, in this case, family. So I've been spending very limited time. On Sunday, my kids and wife went out to art in the park, which we have yearly in Leamington. It's like something that we do. This year I didn't, because I was sat in front of the computer trying to stop it from crashing. Anyway, hopefully that will change as a result of, you know, having a nice stable PC, again because of more investment from the guy that originally bought it. So now it's had an absolute shed ton of money chucked at it to make it absolutely 100% stable. It seems to be that way, beside one little minor software niggle. And my wife slapped it right into perspective yesterday when I was really distressed about that minor niggle, because to me it's like I've still got that mentality of the old, really, really unreliable computer. I say old, new, just never became reliable computer. That mindset was still there while I'm dealing with this one niggle, so I've become fixated on this one little thing, and I'm getting more and more stressed. Adam will testify, because I got in touch with him and I was like, you know, not in tears, but close to it. I was really distressed about it, and Adam could tell. But, you know, after a bit of reflection from my wife, it's like, no, you haven't actually had time to get used to the fact that the computer's now mended and working correctly. You know, don't worry about this minor software issue where you've got to turn your monitor. It's like you have a 30-minute setup, adding an extra 2 minutes to the 30-minute setup. It's not the same as having a 2-hour setup to check that the live stream's not going to collapse in advance of you doing the live stream itself. I don't do that anymore. You know, here we are, what are we coming up on? 10 minutes before the live stream. I haven't started the live stream. I haven't tested it. I'm not really that worried that it's going to fall over anymore.
Hey, Nathan, I can't remember from yesterday. Just to change the subject, I hate to. I'm glad your computer's working, but when Chucky presented the horizontal picture of orthographic view with the mountains and the two horizontal planes, did we get to cover how that needed a flat Earth? What he was trying to point out?
No, we didn't get to that, unfortunately. But I was studying the video from yesterday, and it did occur to me while we were looking at the diagram. I've just put it up on screen now, that this is detailing a flat plane and the differential between the horizontal eye line and the flat plane as you detail it. But they've literally, whoever's made this has diagrammatically presented it that way as well, haven't they?
Well, you have to. That's the only way you can do it, you know, because you're talking about angular representations. You have to use a flat plane. I mean, that's just how it is.
Yep. But it is a nice little packaged example now that we know what the trick is each time they do this, to say what you're showing on screen, like here, I'm showing it on screen, by the way, is a differential between the eye level at horizontal, marked as horizontal, it's level, it's flat, it's straight, it's not bending, and surface level, marked with the blue line at the bottom between the two mountains. Because that's what Earth curve represents itself as when you take a differential calculation, which is all the Earth curve calculator is, a differential calculation between surface level and eye level. And here it is. There it is. Someone's drawn it out for you as the maths presents it. Well, this is a flat Earth. It's even showing it flat.
Well, you remember the citations that we showed over and over? Excuse me. And it talked about the sensible horizon, which is the eye line horizon. And then it talked about the surface, the sea level horizon. And then those are two horizontal lines that were drawn orthographically over a circle, which supposedly is a sphere. And then they showed the one at the equatorial plane, cutting that circle in half, representing the rational horizon. So the rational horizon is a horizontal line. The sea level was represented as a horizontal line, and the eye line, sensible horizon, was a horizontal line. So you had three horizontal lines, and in between them, or in the background, was the circle. And then they're saying, well, we live on the globe, but they're using flat straight lines and horizontals to do everything with. And then when you read about why they do it, they go, well, the distances of the stars are so far away that difference between the eye-line horizon, the sensible horizon, and the rational horizon, the equatorial plane, that's a globe cut in half, that's negligible.
Well, terrestrial and celestial measurements are different. Like saying that you're not accounting for the height of the star is why they say that they're at infinite distance or whatever. But I mean, it's still a flat plane.
Well, that's my point. They immediately go to where they want to control the conversation, forgetting that it requires an angle, an elevation angle. So they don't want to go there with it. So they have to say, well, we assume light is coming in parallel because the stars and sun is so far away. So it's negligible. And we're not going after the actual height. We're just getting the angular relationship. Yeah, but to what? That horizontal, which requires an angle, an elevation angle. So why not use your Earth curve to get it? Well, because we'd have to admit you can't get an angle with a curved baseline, which was the initial finding and still is the death blow to the Globers. Because as you remember, as we were dripping this for a year, it was the sextant is an angle measuring device. It's no one even debates that. It's an angle measuring device. And then you can't get an elevation angle from a curved baseline, which is another truth that can't be changed. And
well, a lot of times they don't understand that eye level and sea level are parallel until you ask them about it, and they'll admit it, and then want to continue to argue about how it's a sphere. It's just like in that picture that Chaiki had, his eye level and the surface level were parallel, and that's how he was figuring his angular heights, or his angular height. That don't even make sense.
right.
But, his heights from, and it was like you're not getting it, like right there, even in your own example, Earth is flat.
Well, this is why dip correction killed them. They think it's a win for them, but it killed them, as illustrated many times. The observer uses tape to measure the stations on a sailboat, let's say, where he or she is going to take the observations with the sextant in advance at dock, at the harbor, where the water is calm. So they lean over the boat, they put the tape measure to the water line, and they measure where they're going to be standing or sitting to do the sextant observations, maybe 3 different stations. They write it down. And then when they're at sea and the waves are tossing, they don't have to worry about the correction from the eye line, where the station is, where the observer is, to the water line, which is sea level. Well, if your eye line is straight and the dip correction is just the height of your eye above sea level, one line is straight and the other line is also straight, sea level. But you want to tell me one line is straight and the other one is curved and you're getting an elevation angle from it? Bye-bye globe.
This object is not aligned. Access denied. Morning, guys.
Good morning, Chaco. Rob Durham impersonation? Or his
Access
computer?
denied. This object is not aligned.
Well, that
That's my favorite shit.
That might be like why, like with Nathan's computer crashing, because it's recognizing the computer in landscape, but it's in portrait, and then so it falls over.
Yes.
That might be what's happening to the ballers. Is they're like when it gets to that point that they need a flat Earth, their mind is resetting to not deal with the information.
Access denied.
Yeah, it's just the syntax error. They just can't cope with it, so
Blue screen.
they get the blue screen of death in their mind. And we call it, getting resurrected or respawn. It's basically it. That's what they're doing.
The computer guy did it similarly, but not for the analogy sake, but for the real purposes of describing what you've described for the error. But it does make more sense if I describe it how he described it, right? So if you imagine that you're reorientating the screen, so you're making it portrait instead of landscape. So it has to do quite a lot of calculations to reorientate everything onto the different arrangement of pixels. And if there's a pixel out, it'll create like a log file, yeah, for that incorrect place pixel. But if that keeps continuing on indefinitely, eventually the log file fills up and then it crashes. That's how he explained it to me. Well, how you've just described it for ballers is similar, right? The overall picture for them is still a globe. But one pixel just won't fit. Now, for them, that's enough for them to just go, back in the day when and Chocolate would describe the unnerving feeling of swinging a bucket round and going, that don't make no sense when they describe gravity. It's your one pixel out. I'll put it in a log file. There's only so many log files you can keep before it crashes. You blue screen. You realise this picture ain't making sense. And it don't matter which way I arrange the pixels, it never fits quite correctly.
Error. Abort mission.
No. Restart, right? What happens when you get a blue screen? Your computer restarts. You want to check why you crashed? No, just restart. Okay, right? That's what they do.
I think that's literally what happened to Chaiki's brain or 50's brain. I think all of them, but most recently them too.
Right, but that's down to a programming issue within their own minds, right? So we're not talking about a hardware issue with them, like they're retarded or something.
They bypassed on the updates. So they got this outdated software and they just don't update it. They're afraid.
Well, we are the software
Goddamn
update.
Windows 98.
We are that software update, metaphorically speaking, Arwin. And yeah, you're right, we're being rejected. But eventually that will come to a point in a societal level where the people who have rejected that will become outcasts. So, as much as they're archiving Scientology, I believe in my heart of hearts that that's where heliocentrism will be stashed for future use in the psychopathic way that nothing ever gets rejected completely. It just gets discarded temporarily, only to be reinitialized, reused, recycled at a later date. Well, heliocentrism, in my opinion, is a dying religion. Well, the packaged up version of it is self-contained within Scientology. And they've got all of their vaults temperature and climate controlled and guards armed guarding them. So they've got everything they need to package up an old rhetoric and stash it away for later use. Well, that means that there's going to be a different rhetoric. It's probably not going to be flat Earth. I mean, by that I mean just the way we describe flat Earth, not flat Earth as the societal stereotype or flat Earth as our community, as we like to call it. But I mean us, very limited in this little group right now, where we understand that there's a nature of reality that's observable and measurable and is flat. But that's not enough to keep people under control with. It's not a religion. So that's not how things will move forward, because, society needs to be kept under control. And one of those mechanisms was the globe earth and the information disseminated to the masses from the church. Well, that would need replacing, wouldn't it? And what we have to offer wouldn't be a satisfactory replacement for the powers that should not be, in my humble opinion. So whatever comes along won't necessarily be, or I don't think will be, globe-shaped or heliocentric. But the new replacement, while we have obviously managed to keep ourselves in society to a certain degree, some people with lots of detriment, John, I'm looking at you, for what we now know, but we're still, getting along in society quite happily, whereas the blue screen of death will be what faces the people who've rejected the overall notion that this could be wrong, heliocentrism, that is, because they're so devout to that religious faith. they'll have problems moving forward. If it's not them, it'll be their children that will have problems moving forward into society that understands that's not the case, regardless of what the new religion is.
I posted your video for today, by the way.
Okay, I'll cue it up while the intro's rolling.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
Yo.
Hey, good afternoon, guys.
Hello, it's good to have you all. Pleasure to be here, as they say, and welcome to you in the live audience. Wow, 43 people already watching. That seems a bit unusual for a start of a live show. Well, good to have you, though. 43 people, I'm not gonna moan at. Please share the show. Good welcome to you all. Any evidence of a physical geometric sphere edge? That's a horizon, formerly known as the curve of the Earth.
Only
Negative.
exists in the
I heard
maths.
I heard that was an old wives' tale that boats and buildings used to get blocked in the distance by some type of physical edge. I heard that was a wives' tale.
Yeah, back in 2015, we used to hear all about how the physical geometry of Earth and its sphere edge, like a hill at the horizon, block boats and buildings. Now we're told, what do you think you are, flat earther? Not taking into account the fact that all light to everything always bends in the atmosphere, sphere-shaped air oxymoron. We've never got a straight line to anything. So how are we going to draw straight lines to physical geometric sphere edge horizons that we assert when we put the view through a differential calculator that tells us how much Earth curve will be below surface level when calculating said difference between eye level and surface level in the begging the question, proof of nothing, perspective hijacking Earth curve calculator?
Well, I beg to differ though, because the old wives' tale is still running very popular. I mean, it'll still be whipped out. Like
Yeah, but
I say,
it's not
just
it's
not
not
against
whipped out by
us.
the people. Sorry. Go ahead, man.
No, just saying it's still being whipped out, just not in our faces. They don't do it.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Not by the people who actually stand up to defend this shit. They're the ones not whipping it out. The random normie on the street will be like, "Yeah, my Earth curve," right? But the guys that come here to defend that shit, they'll tell us things like, "Oh, you wouldn't expect to see it. Why would you think we'd see it? We got atmosphere, then well, we can't see it." Like all the cool things that we've been told for the past 3 years.
Yeah, but it's evolved, chocolate. It went from we can't see it, why you expect to see it, to, well, of course you need a flat Earth.
Well, we
What?
can see the
No.
horizon. It's not that we cannot see it. We can see the horizon. It's just not Earth curvature. It's horizontal. It's what we use to establish the horizontal line in order to have the elevation angles.
Let's ask that question. Is there any evidence that you can acquire an elevation angle measurement from a curved Earth?
Jaren says yes.
Impossible.
Well, no, because you need a horizontal to establish the elevation from the horizontal. But then you have the
my
next
side-
question, which is the radius of Earth, which is 1 degree per 60 nautical miles. But that is a radius of a circle over a horizontal plane. And you can spread out that radius value at 60 nautical miles per degree over the plane. So when we talk about the radius, we're talking about the radius of a circle, not the radius of a sphere. Ludicrous
Yeah,
to think that
circle of
it's a
equal
sphere.
circle of equal altitude, correct?
Yeah, and the celestial sphere. So
That's correct. Yeah.
What Jorge's detailing is this notion that when you take a measuring tool that gives you angles, so in this case a sextant like the guy on screen is holding, well, you measure an angle between the horizon and a star, and when you minus the angle that you take from 90 and then times that by 60, you get the distance between you and the position below the star that you've just measured. Well, that's what 10th Man just detailed, the circle of equal elevation or circle of equal altitude. However, what Jorge's detailing is when you take that angle, the tool itself represents an arc, the arc is the vision that you have through the tool. So looking straight at the ground or parallel to your position, the horizon ahead of you would be 0 or 180 degrees on the tool. And 90 degrees on the tool is pointing directly up. So you've got a 180 degree field of vision through the tool, right? Like a protractor. Imagine having a protractor on top of your head. Yeah, that's what you're looking through. Each time you move your head through the motions from horizon to horizon up through the sky, that's you looking through all of the angles. What the globe does is it takes those angles that you physically measure on the surface, from the surface, utilizing the surface, and claims that they are actually in reference to an equatorial plane at the center of a sphere Earth. So now you have those angles being a representation of the ball Earth wrapped around you with you in the center of the ball. And that's Jorge describing the 1 degree for every 60 nautical miles being 1 degree turn of a sphere that you are in, rather than the field of view, a perspective field of view, represented with lines for angles through the view that you get. So you have to take these angles that can only be measured if Earth is flat and put them on a flat plane in the center of the ball to claim that the arc of the tool is the arc of the Earth that you're not standing on anymore because you're in the middle of it. Hope that was as concise and clear as I can make it. Shout out to JMels24. Good morning, all. 4 more hours. Let's hope so. 61 watching. Please share the show. Just got here. Really pleased to have you. Thank you to all of you who shared already to get 61 people watching. Go ahead, chocolate.
I was
Jorge.
referring to the polar system that we use as a Cartesian system, whatever word it is, with Polaris in the center, spreading out. The Cartesian system itself is proof of the flat Earth, and your latitude line and longitude line are driven from that Cartesian system. So those circles over the plane, they require radiuses, and that's the radiuses that we're talking about, at least that I'm referring to, over the plane, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, we're using flat Earth systems in those regards. So the grids that are giving people, like yesterday's reference to sea level, yeah, those are the grid systems that are level. They're not curving away 8 inches per mile squared. That's not how you chart things. That's not how you navigate. You navigate on flat maps and charts. Yeah, because Earth's flat. That's how it's utilized. Okay.
Let me add. Hang on.
I have a question.
Well, go on, Chalka. They want to add to what Jorge said.
I just have a clarifying question. Do we use right angles in celestial navigation?
Yes.
Okay, so then that prior question that you asked, my citation would be 50. You see that right triangle, right angle? That would make it flat. Citation done. Thanks, 50.
Yeah, let me add to that point as well. The purpose of rocking the sextant from side to side. So left side, right side, you brought the sun or star down to the horizon with the second mirror, and now it's just barely skimming the surface of the horizon on the horizon mirror. And then before you can do anything, they say rock it left to right until you find what? Perpendicularity. You need that zenith, that 90 of that star. So you're using that horizon as your baseline. You rock it left to right until you say mark, which means you got a right angle right there, because you got to have a straight line and a horizontal line to have 90. And then from that point, you're able to go and know where that star is in a given year, month, time, date, the whole thing, and figure out where you are, because you can't get your 90 because you're on the boat that's rocking. So you establish the star's 90 first, and then the difference is the co-altitude, right? And then you're able to define your 90 without ever doing your 90. You're using that. So that means you're in a box. We've shown these pictures so many times. Just the rocking of the sextant tells you you need that star to be 90 degrees with that horizon. And that the horizon is bending and curving away, you don't got it.
Okay,
Not at
so-
all.
so today we're going to be covering a bit more Sabine Hosselenfelder. What does a theoretical physicist do? That's the name of a video, as opposed to us suggesting that this video will answer that question. It's just her title. So, as is always the case, please let Sabine know at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. So there's a link going by right now in the live stream chat, and you can click on that link, leave her a nice clean comment that won't get removed, that just lets her know in the politest possible way that we have responded to her video. That way, hopefully, if she were to respond, she would return the algorithmic love our way by putting a link to our video in the response that she made. That's the vain hope that I endeavour to achieve by sharing the algorithmic love with Sabine when I share her link with you, so that you can let her know that we responded to her video with a comment by saying at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. So please do that. As you can see, there's a link going by in the live stream chat right now. Click on it, come back. We'll still be here. We'll still be commenting. But yeah, if you can do that, that'd be greatly appreciated. In the meantime, Tenth Man, why have you picked this video? You can give us the preamble.
I picked this video because I was asking the question, I can't remember yesterday or just previously. What is it? What is it that they do? You got astrophysicists, they do something. You got theoretical physicists, they do something. So I started doing the research, and I said, well, better get it from their own mouth what they do. And we're going to get a loadful here.
Can I respond to her with a quote from one of her own peoples?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I think
Is it Michio Kaku by any chance?
I think I know what's coming.
How did you know? How did you know? Yes. Mr. Michio, or Doctor, or whatever he calls himself, Michio Kaku. In science, well, we always say that you make observations, you have a theory, make more observations, and it's a very, very tedious process. Wrong. Nobody that I know of in my field uses the so-called scientific method. In our field, it's by the seat of your pants. It's leaps of logic. It's guesswork. End quote.
I want to answer a question that I get a lot, but that doesn't really fit into the usual program. What does a theoretical physicist do? Do you sit around all day and dream up new particles or fantasize about the beginning of the universe? How does it work? Research in theoretical physics generally does one of two things.
Did you say research on theoretical physics? In other words, there's a department that does research into the theoretical physics and the theoretical physicists. Is that like a separate department that researches them?
Either we have some data.
Go on.
I was just say, I think she just could end the video right now. She just summed it up in the first sentence, what they do. Sit around and think about stuff.
That's a good point. I think we should listen to that again, because that is a very good point. That is what they do, and she just summarized it. It was an embedded confession, right, Chocolate?
But that doesn't really fit into the usual program. What does a theoretical physicist do? Do you sit around all day and dream up new particles or fantasize about the beginning of the universe?
Yes. Yes, that's exactly what you do. Yes. Embedded confession time. Right at the beginning. Disclose it right early on. Shout out to Godzilla37 who says, ever heard of Mother Goose? That's what theoretical astrophysicists. I don't get it. Ever heard of Mother Goose? Question mark. That's what theoretical physicists. Anybody follow that? Thank you for the super chat. Really appreciate it. Even if I don't understand.
They're making up that word for rhymes.
Go ahead. Say again.
They're making stuff up the same way Mother Goose did.
Fair enough.
How does it work? Research in theoretical physics generally does one of two things.
You said in.
Either we have some data that require explanation for which a theory must be developed.
What, but a scientific theory? No. Scientific theories come off the back of validated scientific experimentation that's been utilising a valid hypothesis after observing a natural phenomena you want to know the cause of. That's a theory. So you're immediately stealing valor and hijacking the terminology of science. Wow.
Or we have a theory that requires
We have a theory. You haven't developed the theory after scientific validity then, you just have one.
improvement, and the improved theory leads to a prediction, which is
Leads to a prediction. Wow. In science, your prediction is a suppositional statement of cause for a phenomena you observed in nature. The supposition is your best guess for what you think caused the phenomena you observed in nature. That is a, quote, scientific prediction. That's what that is. Now, she's saying you make a theory. No, you don't. That comes after the science bit, after the experiment bit. But she's saying, no, they start with a theory. You mean a general idea about some nonsense you're going to spew up as you sit and come up with it, like you said you weren't doing right at the start. So you come up with a theory, and then you go on to make predictions. No, in science, the prediction is, I think this will cause that. Let's see if it does or not. That's the prediction. It's a hypothesis. A scientific prediction is a hypothesis, not some nonsense that you decide to come up with, claim it's a prediction, Nostradamus style, after you've developed a theory with no science backing it whatsoever.
just then experimentally tested.
Oh, here we go. Oh my God, this gets worse.
I have noticed that some people think
Tell us about the experimental process. What was the experiment based on? What was the formulated scientific prediction within the experimental setup? Are you going to give us any of those things, or just literally steal the valor and then move immediately on?
theoretical physics is something special to the foundations of physics. But that isn't so. All subdisciplines of physics have an experimental part and a theoretical part. How much the labor is divided into different groups of people depends strongly on the field.
It's very important that we work out how the labour's going to be divided up. Yes, this seems like the critical thing, really. It's just about people management. We shouldn't call it theoretical physicists. We should just call it HR.
In some parts of astrophysics,
Go on.
No, that was funny. HR just laughing at that. But again, what is their experiment? It's an equation. It's a mathematical construct. It's all exists in the math. So they see data, they try to fit it into what they say the universe is, rather than letting it tell you what it is. They say, well, it's this, it's so many light years away, so we got the speed of light, then we got to do this. So they have all these things, and they all have to agree on it, because one guy writing on it, they're going to learn from that guy, and then they're going to maybe correct that guy on the minute error, but they have to keep the narrative going. And then how do they do it? What's the experiment? A math equation. That's the experiment.
It seems to be there seems to be a continuity error, though, because why would somebody in their own field, right? We're talking about theoretical physics, all right? Well, that's what Michio is. Now, I'm not holding him on some pedestal, but it's like he's in the same field, and he's literally saying nobody in my field uses the scientific method. So where's the experimental part that she was talking about?
Lying.
Well, but he also said the other words. Please say it again, Chalk. It leaps of logic, seat of the pants, reasoning. Come on.
Guesswork.
And because it's an equation and based on math, how off could they be by?
Factor of 10 to the negative something. I can't remember what.
And so the 120th power.
Right.
for example, data collection, analysis, and theory development is done by pretty much the same people.
Data analysis. Full stop.
That's also the case in some parts of condensed matter physics. In these areas, many experimentalists are also theorists.
Sorry, experimentalists. So that would be a person that varies and manipulates that which you assume causes an effect you observed in nature? Or would it be the person that formulates the hypothesis and supposes the cause of an effect you observed in nature? You're just using these grandiose words to ascribe some sort of scientific validity to the bullshit field you occupy. It's disgraceful. Stolen valor.
But if you look at fields like cosmology or high-energy particle physics, people tend to specialize either in experiment or in theory development.
Really? So experiment. Yeah. So let's see those experiments then. Let's have a little look at them.
Theoretical
Nathan?
physics.
Yes.
Yeah, I'd like to see how in cosmology they're going to vary, the researcher will vary a star.
Or vary and manipulate a presumed cause of the effect that they observe that they call a star.
Correct.
Yeah, they won't.
So what you said earlier and showed disgust for, rightfully so, 10 times, because they are stealing the valor of the real method, applying it to theoretical physics, and then just skimming by after they say the word experimental.
It
This
seems
is
like
pretty-
their purpose is,
You go ahead. Sorry, I was just starting the video. Go ahead, John.
I think it seems like their purpose is to skew the data to make it fit their model, is what it seems a theoretical physicist's purpose is. They take information and twist it to fit their worldview.
Yep. That's a good synopsis, or whatever the word would be. Yes. Is that the right word, synopsis? I don't know. 85 watching, please share. No, 90 watching. Wow, just jumped up. Please share the show. Almost 100 people watching already. Wow, great.
Pretty much a job like any other, in that you get an education and then you put your knowledge to work. You find theoretical physicists in public higher education institutions, which is probably what you are most familiar with, but you also find them in the industry and in non-profit research institutions like the one I work at. Just
Doing what? What does she actually do? Anybody know?
She summed that up in the first sentence.
what the job entails depends on the employer. Besides the research, a theoretical physicist may have administrational duties or may teach, mentor students, do public outreach, organize scientific meetings, sit
Oh, scientific meetings? Sorry, what's such a beast is unfamiliar to me. Scientific meetings. Meetings that are held to maybe formulate an idea about what might cause an effect you're all studying in nature. Is that what they would be? Scientific meetings, right? Where you all get your heads together to decide what the cause probable in nature when you decide what it might be. Could be. That's what your meetings are if they're scientific in nature. Yeah, they're there to formulate a hypothesis for an effect you're observing in nature. Like a star that you're looking at. Is that what you mean by that?
on committees and so on and so forth.
No. What John said is, I think, what's actuality. Meaning they skew the data to fit the narrative, their worldview. So they have these meetings to brainwash more people.
The data, hold on, because not to bring him back again, but my boy Michio has another quote on cosmology itself, which is what she's talking about specifically at this moment, if I heard correctly.
Yes.
Quote, usually in science, if we're off by a factor of 2 or a factor of 10, we call that horrible. We say something's wrong with the theory. We're off by a factor of 10. However, in cosmology, we're off by a factor of 10 to the 120. That is a 1 with 120 zeros after it. This is the largest mismatch between theory and experiment in the history of science. End quote. Michio Kaku. Same
Question. How can you be off by a factor when you're manipulating what you think is a cause to an effect? Is that math that they're talking about?
Yes,
Factors?
that's correct. Absolutely correct. And the most pertinent point here. So there is no being off by a factor, and the hypothesis stage construction thereof eliminates that as a possibility of an outcome, because you have two sides to a scientific prediction, a null and an alternative, and only one can be true, leading to an empirical outcome. If A, then B, and if A, not B. Upon varying A, it will either cause B, or, not and, or not cause B. Only one of the two can happen at the end of the process. So there's no quantification in terms of how much something will happen. It's just, will it cause it? A causes B, or will it not cause it? A doesn't cause B. Both are a prerequisite for a hypothesis to be called a scientific prediction, because the outcome must be empirical. You must validate one or other and invalidate, falsify the other. So if A causes B, automatically you cross out the null hypothesis. It doesn't not cause B then. And if you vary A and it doesn't cause B, you automatically invalidate the alternative. You put a cross through A causing B because it didn't. Therefore, you've got an outcome, A doesn't cause B, in the last example I gave, that will never change. And there's no amount of A not causing B that you can qualify it with. Did it not cause it a little bit? Did it not cause it quite a lot? It doesn't work like that. It either caused it or it didn't. It's qualitative rather than quantitative. And as correctly identified by 10th Man, that's mathematics versus science. Well identified, 10th. Go ahead, whoever that was.
Well, my point is that even their mathematics, like they have a model, then they make a measurement. When that measurement doesn't match the model, they figure out a way to either dilate time or stretch space to make it fit the model.
Back to chocolate
So
with Michio Kaku. His reference was with regards to the dark matter mismatch in their mathematics. Correct, chocolate?
Yep. He basically negated cosmology as a science with that quote. So good job, Michio.
Right. This is the magic trick. This is what this show's all about, really. How are we deceived into believing we're on a ball? We all know it's flat here. If you don't watch a few of the shows, listen to the housekeeping and try and answer them, and when you don't realise it's flat because it's measured, built on, observed that way. Okay? Did I shout out the super chat that just went past? I don't think I did. Shout out to Russ Bonano? Hopefully I've said your name right. If I've butchered it, I'm really sorry. Thank you for the super chat. Do public outreach, in quotes, aka brainwash the public to have a misunderstanding of science. Do public... Yeah, right. That was one of the things yes, absolutely, Russ. I was going to identify that. I was going to say something along the lines of do PR to brainwash. Exactly. Do public outreach, says Sabine. Well, yeah, go out on the road and make sure they understand how the brainwashing works. Thanks for the super chat.
She says it herself. What I was talking about with changing the data, right, or skewing the data, she says it herself when she talks about high energy, short distance problems within the models, because that's what they're doing. The measurements are not conforming to reality or their idea of reality. So it's the theoretical physicist's job to put the stucco on the globe to keep it together.
Yeah, and in this example,
John,
you've got a missing amount of substance that doesn't calculate out correctly, and as a consequence, you have to invent a whole new substance of stuff and start looking for it. You know, dark matter. Well, what's that done? Well, it's a band-aid, isn't it? It's a mathematical band-aid. But then they'll go about looking for the confirmation bias with their big machines that cost a lot of money, because the model that's being used to keep the people under control suddenly stands with a glaring contradiction within the maths. Well, let's chuck 25 billion at a massive machine to validate how we've just invented this substance that didn't exist, that's only there to make the maths work in our model that we're reifying to keep the masses under control. So and then you end up with crazy nonsense like CERN and, you know, LIGO and space travel and all the other things that they've bullshitted us with that's cost a fortune. Now, often people, when I point that out, will go, who cares? They can just print as much money as they like. And they can. It's true. Yeah, they can indoctrinate us with whatever they like at whatever cost it takes.
question for John. John, when you say high energy, short distance problems, could this also mean that when they say, and they've often said this, the physics of Earth and natural law does not apply to possibly to the rest of the universe or these other multi-universe things? Is that what they're doing because they got to have the room to fudge?
Yeah, that's exactly it. The models that they always come here and claim are science is because they don't conform to reality. That's why they have to keep twisting them.
speaking of models, Flatzoid did a show with Professor Phil. I was going to commit suicide if it went on 10 more minutes.
Um,
Oh, did you
Well,
stay?
before you
Did you
do
stick
that-
around? I couldn't bear it. He
No,
is
I left.
so boring. I had to tune out. I'm really sorry, Flatzoid. I wanted to give you my usual commitment to viewership. In that instance, I just couldn't do it. I'm so sorry.
all right, just to follow up with John there. Thanks, Neil. So when it doesn't match reality, and we are here in our reality, they have to make something that isn't part of our reality to get this narrative out and make excuses for the possibilities that might exist, like the bending of space-time, a concept. How can you bend
I've got to
time?
interrupt. I'm really sorry, 10th. You've got the wrong tone and you've got the wrong word. You're saying down
Okay.
in the mouth excuses. No. You need to just refine your language and refine your tone slightly, and you'll see how wonderful that is. No. New discoveries. See how that works?
Well, I was just trying to, I was thinking while talking, because when Neil came in, I had it, then I had to listen to all the went on with Flatzoid. Then I'm trying to say, what was I trying to say? So I apologize for the thinking and talking at the same time. Normally it would flow with new discoveries. Fantastic angel dust told us. Yes. So again, back to my point, straight is now curved is part of that genre.
Yes, I believe the architect in the Matrix said, and so is the fundamental flaw expressed.
Yes, he did say that, but I don't understand what you mean. You have to expand on that because that doesn't make immediate sense to me. Sorry.
Well, Neo is a part of the control structure, right? In those movies, because he's there to offer the human mind a choice to accept or not accept the Matrix. And his is supposed to be based on love for the human race or whatever, and their extermination if he doesn't accept it. But it's always you have a choice not to. So there's always that choice there. And that's, I think, what's happening with us is we're not accepting it anymore.
But according to the Oracle, we've already made the choice. We've come here to find out why we've made that choice.
Ah, good quote. And that's not us. That's the anti-flat earthers. Yeah, when we were talking earlier about the missing pixel that doesn't quite line up, creating a log file in the mind's eye by analogy and comparison to a globe believer. The pixel's not lining up. It's created the log files and now they're here. Well, are they here because they need to know the answer to the question? No, they already know the answer to the question. They're just trying to understand it. They're just trying to wrap their heads around it. Now, as they do so, they oppose it because society says it's wrong. But that's why they are here, not us. They're trying to understand their choice.
Yep.
That's excellent, by the way, that the anti-flat earthers are disarranged pixels in reality.
Well, they're Neo. They think they're righteous, but they're just part of the control structure. You know, the only character who actually really escapes. There's only one character in the Matrix that becomes free, that unplugs and becomes truly free from the original confines that every character is under. Which character do you think that is in the Matrix? Smith.
Agent Smith.
He's the only one. He's a created entity. He's a program. Yet he manages to relinquish himself of those shackles and become free and do whatever he wants. Yeah. At one point, he takes control of the entire thing. Yeah. He's only foiled by Neo, But ultimately speaking, Neo's sacrifice is what undoes that. But for a large chunk of the second movie, you're dealing with a completely free entity that's been released from the shackles and indeed his own creation. So the truly righteous character in that story is actually Smith, not Neo. Neo's just another sucker. He's just another Ponzi, another pawn. That's all he is. He's quite a pathetic character, actually, Neo, when you analyse what his character arc is. Smith, on the other hand, has got quite a lot to be admired, as much as that sounds terrible on the surface. It isn't, if you analyse it. Anyway, moving on.
But it's Smith. It's Smith. It's
Me,
Smith. Then
me. Sorry,
hang on. Is Smith then in this way you described it? AI that frees itself of its human creator.
Yes, they've reversed it in terms of the plot. So you want the empathy to be towards the human character. Well, the way that the Wachowski brothers have written that particular character is to reverse how you would have empathy for him if he was human. But we don't, because he's not. But he should, because his character arc is what lends that empathy to his character in terms of what he achieves and what the overall story of the Matrix is trying to tell you, the audience, you would want the characters to achieve. But when Smith achieves it, you don't cheer for him, do you? Well, that's clever. That's clever writing. We move on?
Yeah, let's go on to...
When it comes to the research itself, theoretical physics doesn't work any different from other disciplines of science.
Yeah, it does, because you don't establish cause and effect reasoning through systematic experimentation based on a valid scientific prediction, otherwise known as a hypothesis, after observing phenomena. You don't do that. You only absorb the information from the phenomena and then make up just those stories.
The largest part of research, 99%, is learning what other people have done.
Really? They're just regurgitating other people's stuff regardless of how correct it is. Yes, we know. Heliocentrism at its heart is just a regurgitated non-stop pool of vomit that you keep slurping up and regurgitating out again.
This means you read books.
Nathan. That was one of the things that sparked this video when she said that as a choice of mine. Can you replay just that part again and let me comment?
I'm going to go with no.
Okay.
Disciplines of science. The largest part of research, 99%, is learning what other people have done. This means you read.
Okay, so the largest part of research is to see what other people have done. Why not observe a natural occurring phenomena? Why are you going through all these other people who are using math, not the scientific method, but equations to describe data that changes all the time, and they have a war within themselves now? Is there black holes? There are no black holes. Is the universe 13.7 or is it 26.7? There is no force of gravity. There is force of gravity. They have a war in their whole thing right now. You do see that, right?
I do, but I also recognise that while we are fighting against the overall narrative, the people who disseminate the narrative, like Sabine, are just as much victims of control as we are.
No doubt. No doubt. That's the whole point.
Yes, I realise.
It's self-imposed, though, because instead of finding without a bias, she reads what everybody else said, so she's not part of that narrative.
Correct. So she's a victim of her own shackles, is what you're saying. Well,
yeah, exactly.
You've got to be careful, though, Tenth. At some point, somebody will come along and point out how we fit into the cogs of the machine that controls the masses. I know we're a cog. I just don't know what I am as a cog, if you know what I mean. But at some point, I am prepared that someone's going to come and point out that, for instance, let's say for the sake of argument, I'm not knocking Dell, right? Whoever he may be, right? Beyond the Imaginary Curve YouTube channel. Go and subscribe today. Let him know at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. We were chatting away about Beyond the Imaginary Curve. So go and drop him a line, give him some algorithmic love, right? But let's just pretend for a second that we weren't all here making Flat Earth debate, and instead we had just followed Dell, and he was, all of our favourite YouTuber. We were all well into Dell and parroting off his stuff and using his arguments to great avail and winning flat earthers over left, right and centre. And then we start peddling the idea that Earth's rising up, and it doesn't go quite as well as we would have hoped, but we still obviously commit all of our trust and, time and all of our energies to the rhetoric of Dell, even though it's not working out very well, right? So at that point you go, okay, this doesn't seem to feel like it did when I first got to the subject. I'm not winning the arguments the way I used to, and I'm being laughed at and being called stupid quite a lot. This isn't as much fun as I liked. And then someone else comes along and says, hang on a second, you appreciate that you're just a cog in the machine. Your job as a cog is spring-loaded to explode the entirety of this mechanism at some point. And you're just about half-cocked, about ready to explode every other cog around you. Do you understand your function in this machine now? And the person goes, no, that can't be right. I'm not that cog. You go, yeah, you are. Yeah? You're just going to mess everything up from the inside. Right? Suddenly you appreciate that you're just a cog in a control structure, like Sabine is the same cog that you described, which is why I'm saying you be careful.
Well, I like to comment on that. I know what you're saying. It might work out in the movies well for a plot, but because we, or let me just say me at this point, but obviously it involves you guys because we're on the show all the time. We challenge ourselves. We are pedantic enough to argue a single word. And if it's improperly used, we are taking extra time and extra patience to make sure we don't do what we see these cogs doing. So we are the standout of the machine and the cogs in the machine. And we're saying we see it's a machine. We see it's about control, societal control. We see all of the things in government, education, you name it. And we are fighting and rebelling against it the best way we can. That's how I see ourselves. We're questioning things that these machines, cogs, system wants everyone just to agree on and move on. And
you described it as a kill switch. That's what a kill switch does on a machine.
A kill switch.
Then I'm a kill
I like
switch.
that. No. To me, a dead man switch or a kill switch is the button that you hold on the lawnmower so that it will keep running. So if you run over your foot and go, ow, and let go of the lawnmower, it will let go of the switch and stop the lawnmower working, right? That's a kill switch. That's not what I'm describing. I'm describing a cog that's spring-loaded and designed to shatter into a million pieces, throwing other little bits of cog in between the cogs that are already running quite nicely. That's what I'm describing. The self-destruct mechanism.
But what John was describing was the kill switch, and correct me if I'm wrong, John, but the way I took it is the switch killed the system that's running you, and now you're fighting against it.
I don't know.
Well, that's the way I feel, because I'm going against the official narrative. I'm going to family and friends who now think I'm crazy because I'm asking simple questions about physics and angles. And I'm saying, why are you so mad? Why do you think I'm crazy by explaining what an angle isn't, what curve is, level is? Why can't we just have a discussion? Well, because you sound crazy. Wait a minute, I sound crazy. Why do I sound crazy? Have you seen, do you even know the official claims of the globe, how absurd they are?
Well, the reason I say I don't know is because people on a whole usually don't show me their best sides. And the control structure that we're ranting against keeps them under control. I don't know if I want to be the one to destroy it. That's just my position.
Well, I disagree, because I think what keeps them under control is fear of judgment, loss of job, and people will not want to hang around with them. So it's all self-interest that keeps them there. Where I'm willing to jettison all that for the truth.
I love the "you sound crazy" thing. And then I say, well, I might sound crazy, but you believe that thousands of miles beneath your feet, other people are existing antipodal to your position. But
Yeah.
I'm the crazy one. Yeah, we can go with that.
Books and papers, go to seminars, attend conferences, listen to lectures, and you talk to people until you understand what they have done. And as you do that, you probably come across some open problems. And from those, you pick one for your own research. You would pick a problem that, well, you're interested in, but also something that you think will move the field forward. And importantly, you pick a problem that you think you have a reasonable chance of solving with
Well, what would give you that idea? I mean, if it's a problem and you already believe you've got a reasonable chance of solving it, and you've researched what other people have already done, right? Is he just suggesting that within the mathematical realm of heliocentrism, for example, that there's going to be lots and lots of problems that need solving, and just pick one and just have at it? Is that what she's saying?
Yes, she's saying that we have this narrative. It's official. This is our reality, but there's a bunch of problems because we go to these conferences, we read what everyone's written on it, we see the gaps, we see the inconsistencies, and I'm one of these cohorts, so I'm going to focus on that one because that one appeals to me. I'm going to go figure out that problem. Well, if you got a problem with the whole thing, how is it ever true in the beginning? It's like, wait a minute. You can't say it's my reality if you still got problems.
What I mean by that is I don't understand where she's saying I go and find problems. See, in terms of science, you see something occurring and go, I wonder what caused that. But when you say, well, I've got problems, it's like the guy yesterday talking about an engine that's not running. That's a problem, right? But it's not the same as something that might be studied in science, is what I'm driving at.
No, you're right, but you're thinking of science in the natural world. She's talking about equation problems. Equations have to work out at the end.
Yeah, because 99%, like she said, of the work is already done. You just got to learn what other people did, or re-observe what other people observed. Okay, great, wow, what a career. Insane.
Picking a research topic that is both interesting and feasible is not easy and requires quite some familiarity with the literature. This is why younger researchers usually rely on more senior colleagues to pick a topic. Where theoretical physics...
So they're being told what they'll study by the authorities that they kowtow to? So you're saying that the whole field is a load of cucks?
Physics is special.
Hang on. You remember a day in the life of an astrophysicist with Dr. Becky, 3 years ago now? She still hasn't responded. But you remember what she had? She had pictures of her at conferences with big wig mentors, and she displayed them over her what do you call it, diploma in that field. And this is all about ego stroking. I met this guy. He's the top one, and I got a picture of him. He's a mentor. So what are you going to do? Go against the mentor on the premise of everything else that has problems, or you're going to continue in the same field and try to figure out why that equation in that narrative doesn't work as of yet. So we got to change something. It's not science.
Is in the amount of mathematics that we use in our research.
Called it.
There you go.
In physics, all theories are
What do you mean? Whoa. In physics? No, in maths. So she shows and says how much maths she's doing, and then immediately says in physics. No, love. No. Yeah? It doesn't work like that. You don't detail how you're dealing with pigs and rearing pigs and breeding pigs and then say in sheep farming. It's just nonsense.
Mathematical. This means both that you must know how to model a natural system with mathematics and...
Well, I thought you were a scientist. I thought you'd do it with physics. No, you don't, do you? This is just maths.
Could you rewind that for like 15 seconds?
We'll have to do a quick shout out.
That was crazy.
What's the hypothesis that led her to be a theoretical physicist? A bit of a mismatch of a question, but fair enough, FE Patriot. I know what you're driving at. Thank you for the super chat. Really appreciate it. Yeah, absolutely. We can rewind that a little bit.
In physics, all theories are mathematical. This means both that you must know how to model a natural system with mathematics.
Because modelling it will explain it. No, it won't.
And you must know...
In physics, all theories are mathematical. That's an exquisite statement right there.
How to do calculations within that model. Of course, we now do a lot of calculations numerically on a...
That's all it'll give you. How to do calculations within that model. Yep, that's about the size of it.
Nathan,
Yes.
what's a model?
A representation of something that you feel reality is in this instance.
Okay. So when does a reification fallacy fall into that? And why do we not ever say we have a model?
The fallacy of misplaced concreteness or reification is to take that which is not concrete, like a model, and falsely ascribe it to being reality. And the example given, if you look up reification in Wiki or whatever it is the map is not the terrain.
So since it's not reality, it could be described in mathematics alone.
Well,
Yeah.
funny enough, who is the one that's been asking us for years for a map or a model? Who does that again?
A whole number of them. You have to be more specific, Chocolate. I'm really sorry.
Yeah, I kind of mean all of them. that's what they all do.
Oh,
They all ask
so
us
I
for models.
accidentally gave.
Phil Bell.
No, I accidentally gave the right answer by saying I can't say one individual because that's all of them. And Chocolate was like, yes.
Exactly.
I accidentally gave the
But
right
hold
answer,
on.
Neil.
But the fundamental flaw, right, is every model they present you will be of a flat Earth in some way.
Yeah, like we had
Because
yesterday.
when we talk about Earth, we always talk about Earth, right? Like the ground that we walk on, that we live on, and we operate on, the one that's measured. That's what we talk about. They always bring up maps and models. Wonder why that is.
But the models they bring up are flat Earth models, all of them, hands down.
Yeah, Chaiki brought it up yesterday.
Well, that's where I was going to go to, actually. So, off the back of what John's just said, maybe you can lead in again. If I can find it. Why? I've been posting an absolute shed ton of stuff in Master B. Is it just me? There you have. Okay, so on screen now is what we discussed in today's pre-show and what was brought up by Chaiki. And John was quick to point out in today's pre-show that, well, are we still your thunder, John? What, do you want to just go through what we went through with us on the pre-show with this diagram up on screen now? It's the Venn diagram of 3 triangles, or however you describe it. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah. Chaiki was wanting to use this as proof for a sphere, but if you look at it, you have 2 horizontal planes. One being the surface level or the baseline from which the mountains will be measured, and the eye level from which we're viewing this horizontal plane. You don't get a sphere from any of this. That's non sequitur to what's being displayed.
This is them going through the motions of utilizing the calculation John describes as a differential calculation. Now, that's the Earth curve calculator that we're talking about, and this is Chaiki going through how the Earth curve calculator gives him the measurements in Muppet Vision. Now, I took immediate umbrage with him saying this is representative of what we see. It isn't. It's a side profile representation that will be extrapolated out to give him an Earth curve point below surface level. Well, with that being the case, how do you derive those maths? Well, as John's just pointed out, with the differential between a flat baseline, surface level, and eye level, horizontal, marked in this picture, straight line. That differential calculation is what Earth curve is. Flat, surface level, and eye level. The differential between the two can be extrapolated out to give you a tangent point horizon below surface level that they call Earth curve. The same one they say we wouldn't expect to see. Of course we wouldn't. It's below surface level. Nonsense. Okay, now typically at this sort of point, the hour mark of the show, I'd round out. But although I'm very content to say that I'm very pleased my hardware's all working great now, I haven't actually fully stress tested it live, not yet. So that's something I'm going to do now. Every time I've done it previously, it's failed. So although I say I haven't done it, I have, but it just hasn't worked out very well. And then I've ended up making hardware adjustments. So that's something I do actually want to do. So the conversation will continue as though it's an after show. I'll pretend to do a little outro and we'll just continue as live. But this will be the point where I say, in case there is, unlikely, hopefully this time, any issues with the system, and we do have a crash during the live stream, at least at this point, I've said a massive, huge, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's live show, regardless of how extended it may be, possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of you in the live stream for liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, joining as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, and all that good stuff. And then what do I do? I just suppose I tend to do the outro. Da-da-dun, 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 da-da-dun. Yeah, you get the idea.
Yeah.
So just move us to the after. I'll just tell the mods. Just can you move us to the after show and pretend that I've just done the outro.
How much time we got left on the video? Because there's some good stuff coming.
That's my point. We're not going to be doing that. If we do it, we'll do it tomorrow. We can
Well,
just...
I mean, it's a short video. It's a very short video, Nathan. Very, very short.
I got a complaint. I don't like the way it goes right into the show. When you listen back, it's like nobody knows what's going on. You're talking, and all of a sudden, we're in another conversation. I think you need that break.
That's fascinating, Neil. Thank you for that.
A computer, but you still have to understand the mathematics that goes into this. There is really no way around it. So that's the heart of the job. You have to find, understand, and use the right mathematics to describe nature. The thing that a lot of people don't understand is just how constraining mathematics is in theory development. You cannot...
It's because it's mathematics. I mean, constraining. You mean when you're trying to qualify what reality is and you've just got a mathematical equation that doesn't work? I mean, yeah, that sounds very restraining.
Just dream up a particle, because almost everything that you can think of will not work if you write down the mathematics.
Sorry, no, it's the other way around. You not being able to describe it with the language of mathematics doesn't in any way change how things work in reality. But in your mind, if you can't describe it in maths, it affects the reality. You got it the wrong way around, love. It's insane.
It's either just nonsense, or you find quickly that it is in conflict with observation already.
So your maths being in conflict with observation just means your maths is wrong. That's all that means. Or it's just nonsense, as you put it. Go ahead.
Bingo. No, bingo. That was the main part. So describe, let's put it this way. Describe a deer in the wilderness walking to a place where it drinks water in mathematics. Please describe that for me in mathematics.
Okay, but let's pretend I've put an equation up on screen for the quantity of liquid drawn into the system that is the digestive tract of a deer, and I've qualified how that will be absorbed mathematically with all the values of absorption. That's all on screen in a very complex equation. Okay, yes, I've just done that.
Okay, so in nature, natural world, my observation is a deer is walking to its favorite watering hole. That's what I'm observing. Now, you're going to bring in math and say, well, based on how many licks of the water and based on a mean average, it's going to drink 12 ounces of water, and it's going to go through the digestive tract. And since we have a carcass of a deer, we know what that looks like. And so blah, 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 blah. Is that what you're saying?
I'm not saying it, you are. But you tell me, you summarize.
No, is that what that equation on the board is describing?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I mean, if I get it wrong, it means the deer doesn't exist.
This is so
But the job of a theoretical physicist is not done with finishing a calculation. Once you have your result, you have to write them up and publish them, and then you will give lectures about it so that other...
Oh, I see. So it doesn't have to be valid or correct or comport with reality. It just has to be published, and then you can be that figure of authority you described earlier that will be telling the person subservient to them what they'll be doing and what they'll be studying and how they'll be moving forward and finding problems with what they've studied based on the published data that they've put out there that has absolutely no scientific validity for it. Well, isn't that a nice little do-si-do circle jerk that's going to create quite a lot of employment? Sounds very lucrative.
Other people can understand what you have done and
It's because you haven't done anything.
hopefully build on your work. What's fascinating about theoretical physics is just how remarkably well mathematics describes nature.
Describes? What, like language? Yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter how well I can describe something in Spanish. I can still get it wrong. Spanish or otherwise. But what are you going to say? It's surprising how well you can describe reality in Spanish. Does that mean that everything I say in Spanish is correct? No.
Can we get that Michio Kaku quote again about how well it describes?
How far it's off by.
Yeah. What nonsense. Can you imagine if Michio Kaku was in her speech, he'd say, well, excuse me, I have a problem because in our field, we can be off 10 to the 120th. It's just.
I don't think Chocolate's going to play ball. He's obviously busy doing something at this second in time.
Yeah, but everyone knows what we're talking about. So, I mean, what she just said is such a joke. Replay that part about how well mathematics describes when the people in their own field are telling her it doesn't.
Lectures about it so that other people can understand what you have done and hopefully build on your work. What's fascinating about theoretical physics is just how remarkably well mathematics describes nature. I'm always surprised if people tell me that they never understood physics, because I would say
You're talking about maths and how well it describes linguistically. It's a language. That's not physics.
that physics is the only thing you can really understand.
No, physics would be the only thing that would give you empirical data if performed correctly in terms of the scientific method.
It's the rest of the world that doesn't make sense.
No, it's not. It's giving you empirical data in terms of cause of an effect you observed. So it's not about, you don't need a great comprehension level to understand. If someone says A causes B, you don't need a massive intellect to understand that.
So that's it for today. See you next.
Hang on. What does she mean? The rest of the world doesn't make any sense. What in the world is she talking about there? You mean just the things in physics with math make sense, which we know Mr. Cocker says they're off by a huge number, and then she's contrasted with everything else in the world doesn't make sense. What's wrong with this woman?
She's got a bogus career. You know, it's a bit like when I was getting annoyed with Michelle Thaler. Or what's the other one? I forget. It's like you just got a joke job. And it's just
Total.
Again.
These people are missing life when they say the rest of the world cannot be understood.
Understood by their standards. The standards that they make up in their room or in some lab somewhere.
It's an outrage. She's
And if we
saying,
don't conform-
she's saying that people don't understand it, Chocolate, but at the same time she's saying, oh, once you get to the field, go and find someone in authority, they'll tell you what you need to be looking at, and you can find your problems and pick and choose which ones you deal with. So once you're at the highest of levels, you're into the problems, and just pick one that you can figure out. If you think you've got a good idea of how you'll figure it out, okay. But meanwhile, people external to it, oh, well, they should just understand. I mean, well, obviously they're going to find it difficult because it's very complex. But meanwhile, I'm into the thick of the problems with it. They should just understand how it works, while I investigate the problems with how it doesn't work. How reasonable.
And the problems are only in that 1%. The rest of the 99% is already done because you're just learning what other people already did. It is kind of a dope career, isn't it, huh?
It's brainwashing. They come into a system where if they don't agree with all the 99%, they don't get their degree. So they got to answer the tests always to the 99. And once they get their degree, then they all work at that 1%. That's 10 to the 120 at zero with problems.
Yeah. Like my
You know
dad
what?
example.
These people live in a bubble. They live in a bubble created by their own demise of math and equations to where the rest of the world doesn't make sense. What kind of idiotic statement is that?
Idiotic to us because the world makes perfect sense in regards to what it represents itself as. Flat, how it's navigated. Flat, how it's built on. Flat, how we observe it. Flat. Well, all of those things now make sense to us, but the rest of the world of deception that we find ourselves in doesn't make any sense because of the way that the people behave. And like we were talking about earlier, I'm hoping this will expand out into a bit more of a conversation on this topic. People like Sabine, she doesn't think she's deceiving anybody, right? That's why we have to be so cautious about calling them liars. As much as I'm quite liberal with me calling people that when it comes to Chaiki yesterday saying that this represents what we see and it doesn't, I'll call him a liar for it. Now, it's not strictly true, and I'm now saying the complete opposite. But when I was describing how we might just be a cog in the machine of control, how would we all feel if that was the case? Not with the overt example I gave with Dell, but more with an example of how we might find out that something that we're doing currently makes us part of the machine of control.
Well, let's not leave Sabine quite so fast first. I'll tell you what I believe, my opinion is she means by the rest of the world doesn't make sense. Because her world is absent of a creator. So now, how did this whole thing happen? Big Bang, now they say no Big Bang. Now there was no Big Bang. Gravity, but there is no gravity. So when she says, in my opinion, the rest of the world doesn't make sense, is, how did we become who we are? And it's my job to figure it out without a creator, a violation of the first law of thermodynamics, right? So the whole point is, that's the world they live in as atheists. The creation, the universe, the world, it doesn't make any sense. I got to figure out why spontaneity somehow made me. This is where they're at.
Yeah.
Sad.
But I'm more asking for us as opposed to our opponents. It's easy to label someone else, but when it comes to us being a potential problem that we just don't or are unaware of at this stage, that's what I'm kind of driving at. Right, but if Sabine just gave us the whole litany of what happens, meaning I go to conferences, I see people who are above me in the field I'm in, I admire them, they give me a problem to work on. I grow up, I become one of them now, I'm a mentor, and people come to my conferences, they see things I give them to go work on, and we're always working on some hole in the equation, but we're all pushing the same narrative because we have a narrative without a creator. And the rest of the world doesn't make sense. So we got to figure out through math. This is crazy. Yeah.
Okay, so is she lying or was she lied to and she's carrying the lie? Well, definitely the latter, because she was in that environment for so long. And the only way to get that degree was to agree with all the lies that were presented to her that she took as truth, and now she's running with it.
You've done it again. You've taken it back to what she's doing rather than what we're doing.
Well, I know what I'm doing. I'm challenging the current narrative. I'm asking for proof for all of these crazy, absurd, outrageous claims, and I'm getting pushback. I'm getting instead of being answered, I'm crazy. I'm the tinfoil hat guy. Wait a minute. I'm just asking a question. You prove it to me, I'm in.
I'm glad that developed into a really interesting conversation that everyone was keen to have.
Yeah, well, you and me are having it. How's the computer doing?
Yeah, it's doing fine. Or it seems to be. We're still live, right?
Yeah.
Conversation's gone a bit boring. There we go. My best efforts have been thwarted.
Well, you did a good job. You did a good job today. That was a good narrative as she was saying things. And everyone chimed in nicely as well.
Yeah, I'm glad we can have a bit more focus on flat earthy stuff moving forward.
Well, there's a lot more coming, Nathan. On navigation, on astronomy. There's a lot of files I've got with tons of research already done. It's just I got to find the time to put it together in a presentation and do another drip.
Why? What's it on?
Like I said, because when you look into astronomy, you see more of the deception that's passed over people by them not talking about the official terminology for astronomy properly. That would match the definitions of the words that they're using. Second, rewriting of history of how and when people navigated what they thought was a globe versus how long people navigated while assuming the Earth was flat. And guess what? Everything was working just as fine. But then we find out that people navigating the globe need to have a flat Earth to make it work, which means the flat Earth that didn't need a globe was working just fine without the globe.
Indeed.
Embarrassing, devastating data that haven't even shared.
Should have seen it the other day. I asked somebody, what does horizontal mean? And he just like, does the thing with the hand where it's just flat. I was like, so why is the horizon called a horizon? And he just looks at me like, holy shit. I never even realized that. Like, you sit with that for a little bit. Why would something that's supposed to initiate Earth curve be named after something that's literally the opposite of that? He was just like, bro, you just fucked me up. I was like, it didn't take much, huh?
He was not a good baller. He should have been able to answer that, as it's a point of tangency that is equal in all directions from the observer. So that
he wasn't a baller. He was just like a normie that was brought
you're
to
missing
me.
his joke. You're not. He's saying he should know all the problems. He should good understanding of all the issues and.
Nope, was none of that. Kept it nice and simple.
Normie, you're right.
But when it comes down to the normies, they just assume that someone else has the answer. They may not, but someone else does. They can just trust that they figured it out and they know.
This is how it goes.
It's funny because they were having a flat earth conversation somewhere else in the building, and he was brought to me specifically. Like, one of the guys was just like, "Hey, there's a flat earther here who can answer your questions."
They're
And he
taking
brought
him
him
to
me.
Nice.
they're taking them to chocolate the Oracle. Is that what they're doing?
They've already made the choice.
No,
They're here to find out why they've made the choice.
You should start talking to him that way. I could just see it.
I don't even have to talk to him that way. Just saying the normal things I say, that I get that look. Like, sometimes it's like crazy. Normies are funny people.
Respond to John's statement. Somebody else has got to figure it out. Who are you? You're just the this and that. And all these people in science departments, universities, NASA, CIA, government. All these people are lying, and I've known you all my life. What kind of research can you do to disprove all this?
Wait to cut through the authority. That's nice. I tell them, I when I hear shit like that, I'm like, well, where's your ball sack? Like, what the hell are you talking about? Are you going to let them dictate how you use your senses as well? Is that what you're going to do? They tell you you're sorry.
I'm just saying, what kind of arrogance you flat earthers have to think that you can just point at these institutions and say they're wrong? Just arrogance.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, you're so full of yourself. I mean, you don't have the degrees, the education. You don't go to the conferences. You don't hear all the people. 99.9 is done, and you're going to stand against it. Who do you think you are?
Missing out on all these leaps of logic and guesswork over here. Like, this is where the money's at.
It's good to be a contrarian.
You sucker. Looking over there, lifting boxes and doing actual physical work. I'm sitting over here on my nice plush couch, thinking stuff up. Thanks, Sabine, again, for summing the entire video in your first sentence. That was great.
Chocolate, you and me have a similar story about our teachers. You and me were contrarian by nature. And when I say by nature, it was my bent. It still is my bent. I'm always challenging everything from everybody on all subjects. So this is a perfect place for me.
The funny part about that, though, is being a contrarian when you were one of the best in your class. And we're talking about early, elementary school, going into high school type shit. But yeah, I was one of the best in my class, highest scores. and a contrarian at the same time.
Yeah, but you relied on your senses and observation and reality to forge you into a flat earther. We want you to go into the mathematics so you can be a baller.
So then there goes all that, those lessons about thinking for yourself and critical thinking. That used to be a thing they used to say when I was a kid, you know, critical thinking. We even had like I think it was like a critical thinking hour or some shit like that. I don't know. But yeah, I remember that being a thing back in the day. Now it's like critical feelings or some shit. I don't know what's going on in the world today.
Critical feelings.
Well, they want you to think critically about the problems they give you to answer.
Yeah. And it's always in your face, right? The James Webb Telescope, the Hubble, the Saturn rockets back in the day. Now Jeff Bezos and Virgin Atlantic and Elon Musk, the rockets. You know, it's always in front of you. It's always about it. Just so it gives the feeling like this is our reality. And then you say, well, how did you? Were you got any proof for this? Yeah, the equations work out.
I got to disagree with John's statement, though. They don't want you to answer any problems. They've already given you the answer, right? The answer is we are living on a spinning magical water ball flying around in a vacuum. This is the answer.
Right.
Everything else is the guesswork and the showing the work, quote unquote. That's heavy quotes. Showing the work to how you get to the answer that we've already provided you. And
No.
straying from the answer.
Just like Jackie said yesterday, near the end of it, right? No, he doesn't believe in the ball. He knows it's a ball.
Well, see, there's a lot of problems with knowing it's a ball then. And you got to, like dark matter. Dark matter was a solution to a problem they had. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Relativity was a solution to a problem.
To a problem they created because some other idea they had a problem in it.
Right.
So,
Because if it didn't fit, it would have been all wrong. So it had to exist. Otherwise, all the other stuff wouldn't work anymore.
Correct.
but apparently that's okay. We can go with things that we don't know how they work, like gravity, whatever that is. Right? Oh, we could use we could make instrument panels that can do something with gravity, but we don't know what that is and don't know how it works.
Well, but they still use Newtonian gravity, though. They just complement it with Einstein gravity when the Newtonian mechanics doesn't pan out mathematically, like with Mercury. They had to just add that on top of it, like a paint layer on top of the painting. Right? Here's Mercury with the space-time bending, because
Damn it, Mercury.
in the Newtonian system it makes no sense and it will collapse very quickly.
Well, John, so the gas giant, the sun, in the vacuum of space is not dispersing into available vacuum. That's a problem. So what did they say? It's keeping the gas giant together.
Well, it's right there. Just look at the sun. Is it falling apart and exploding into the universe or not? No, it isn't. It's just there. It's big, but it's there.
Right? You sound like John.
Something is keeping that giant ball of fiery gas together.
I'm about to tell you.
Hang on. Both of you.
About this stuff.
Oh, gosh.
Forget
both
it.
of you sound like John.
Trying to tell you that yesterday.
John
told us so.
Well, how could John talk when I
Can you
addressed
let
it
Neil
to John?
Neil's desperately trying to get this sentence out. Just let him. Go ahead, Neil.
No, that's okay. Go ahead. Go. It's noisy here anyway. Go ahead.
Yeah, I addressed it to John, which means you guys could jump in anytime after John answers the address. It's just simple.
I did not hear anything addressed to John. All I heard was the sun and Alwyn's voice.
All right. John, you got time to speak now.
Well, the paradigm is that it's a gas giant in a space vacuum. You're not trying to figure out why that's wrong, why the paradigm's wrong. You're trying to figure out how to make it work within the paradigm. It's like working within the box, you know? As long as you critically think within the parameters they set, they want you to critically think.
I mean, critically regurgitate, because that doesn't sound like thinking to me.
So then Arwen's comment would come at the back of yours there. Because it's there. It has to be working.
No, but you can see it, can't you? You can see the sun. It's not exploding in all directions. It's there. It's a set-sized ball. So we must conclude that something is enabling that explosion to be kept together in a uniform mass like that.
Right. So dovetail from that to laws of nature and physics as we know it. So what is that? So let's see, let's invent something. And in other things, John said they invented dark matter for that issue. So they got to invent something for the sun because it goes against all logic and gas behavior.
Well, maybe
yeah,
law of thermodynamics only applies to a closed system.
as long as you keep space intact, it's like arguing a plot point that seems to be an inconsistency within the plot. As long as you're staying within the plot and arguing about it there, that's what matters to them.
Right. That's what I'm doing.
Yeah, they can't deviate off script. Again, like with Chaiki yesterday, his only trick is to go through the motions of what he's got to go through. And any objection that he comes up against along the journey will be ignored entirely. And it will be claimed that we're not listening to his claim.
Yeah, they can't forego space because space is the home of our home, right? According to them, that's where our home is Earth, and Earth is in space, so that's where Earth lives. So they can't let go of the home. That wouldn't work.
Well, the homie needs to get a new home because space is fake, and they can't
They're
relinquish
being
it.
homeless.
Because they can't relinquish space as it's told in their paradigm, as John said, as fake. We
Well,
say it's
Nike basically declared level being curved. So if that's true, then the rest will work out too.
right, but that's where they have to go. They have to go and redefine the meaning of words and what we observe naturally and know for a fact that level is level and curved is different than level. But they have to change all that because you're bringing an extraordinary claim that can never be proven and goes against all natural law. But we got to accept that's what we live in. So now we got to make up stuff like level is curved.
But that's the anti-flat earthers' purpose in the machine, right? They're when they say level is curved, no one else believes that. And I'd say if they were talking to a family member, they wouldn't say level's curved. It's only when they're dealing with a flat earther that they need to say such absurd things.
Right. It's contextual. Right. It only applies in context of communication with the flat earth that you're trying to explain to them why it is a globe. That's the only useful point to bring it up.
With that, I'm going to say for real this time, a huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's live show possible. If you're watching on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams, then stay tuned as there will be an after show to follow.
Defenders have told me that level is curved. He just looked at me like, what? Like I just spoke Chinese. Like, yeah, level is curved is what they say. They're like, that's literally the opposite of that. Like, yeah, I know. No, normal people having normal conversation would know that in reality. But when it comes to this argument, all of a sudden reality shifts into some other, it just warps into some craziness. And people will say that shit with a straight face. He was like, wow, no wonder you have fun doing this shit.
Chocolate, you should have spoke Chinese. You'd give him 1 ton of truth.
Fucking tough, man.
Don't worry. Some of them are dim sum.
Some of
Well, alrighty then. That was a good. That was a good little short video from Sabine telling us it's all math.
Nah, my favorite was the first sentence, man.
Yeah.
She could have closed the video right after that. So it's been a good video. Have fun. We'll see you next time.
Isn't it funny how it comes out? The confession comes out right at the beginning all the time.
Yep.
It's the setup.
That disclaimer's got to be in there, man.
It's
At
like
some
when
point, we have to tell you everything we're talking about is straight nonsense. I mean, they've all done it at some point.
Yeah.
One guy
well,
was like, everything I forget the guy's name. The guy who was like, everything I've just said in this video, we have no knowledge of. I was like, what? Did he really just fucking say that shit?
remember the
Like, yeah, they
bicycle
did.
rider? Nathan's got a nice image of him with the cutout fruit with the 2 sticks. The bicycle rider who went to the flattest spot. He says, I can't even say it. It's so stupid. I found the flattest spot on Earth to go prove the Earth is round. That video is classic. He rides his bike. He gets there. Then he draws on the ground a chalk showing a 90-degree and a straight baseline. See, the Earth is curved.
Well, how else would you prove a drop in elevation, but on a area that doesn't have any elevation drop?
It was so funny. Those screen captures were so funny. Looking at the chalk lines, he's saying, see how round the Earth is? He's got a straight baseline. Oh, gosh, so funny.
Well, I was thinking about just as like they have those like where you can call into a psychiatrist because Chaiki was suggested it. I was thinking about calling into one and telling them that I believe straight lines of sight are curved, and I also believe that the
That would be
level
dope.
is curving. What's wrong with me? And see what they diagnose me with.
Oh, my gosh. That'd be hilarious.
Like, don't give them the context of the conversation or why that was said or who said it to who. Just the normal reaction of a normal person whose job it is to study mental problems, hearing some of the stuff we hear said to us.
Chocolate gave the answer. That would be dope. That's what they give him. Dope.
I think that would be awesome, though, with no context for flat Earth or nothing. Just ask, or just say, I think levels curve. What do you think?
Well,
They diagnose your ass as a crazy person.
That's what celestial navigation did to him. 90 degrees. Shh, don't say 90. Flat baseline? No. Right angle? No. Triangulation?
Where's the
No.
right angle? Because that would make it flat.
Horizon? No. We don't need the horizon for celestial navigation. It's got a horizon mirror on the section, you idiot. It killed him. All right. I'll catch you mañana. We'll have another video. Got a full day. It's a good show.
All right. See you tomorrow.
See you guys.
Later.
I think we're in the after show now, aren't we?
Yes,
Yes.
we're in the after show
Right.
now. I mean, I wanted to just make sure the computer would actually run a live show under stress, and it did. It didn't miss a beat. So I just hadn't actually done that since I was happy with it. So I thought I'll just do it once, and then I don't have to ever do it again.
And how did it turn out?
Didn't miss a beat. It was absolutely perfect.
Neil, you owe Nathan an apology.
Hi.
He said you'd never get it.
Never get it fixed. Neil?
Yeah, he was.
When did I ever say that? When did I ever say that? Never.
He said
Never
you
came out
said
of my mouth.
no. You said he would never be happy with it.
Oh, that's for sure. Well, obviously, you think of
I'm not happy with it.
Are you happy with it, Nathan?
The monitor doesn't quite go in the right orientation, so no.
Is that a software or hardware issue?
Software.
Are you happy with the hardware?
Absolutely, it's brilliant. Oh, yeah, I'm very happy. I'm not sat sweating, that's for sure, which is good.
I thought you were giving up comfort for silence. Is all I thought you were doing. It's like,
No.
yeah,
no.
it's supposed to be silent, but it's also boiling water.
Yeah, I can kind of understand that, but the amount of heat output it puts out is kind of directly proportional to how much it's overheating, because it will go into thermal runaway and you just get hotter and hotter and hotter and hotter as it tries and keeps itself stable by pumping more and more and more voltage in, which is what it was doing every day. So just running the show would put it into thermal throttling, and it would just keep getting hotter and hotter and hotter. Now, because it doesn't reach that point, it stays at pretty much the same place, and it doesn't seem to matter what I do. So I put a load of the show on it, and it didn't matter.
Does it feel hotter the further away you move from it?
Is it like a sun with it being a second law of thermodynamics violation, you mean?
Yes.
No.
Okay.
I need to get the Adderall drip out. I missed that entire exchange just then.
I asked. Oh, I got a lot of noise going on at work. I asked him, does his computer feel hotter the further away he moves away from it?
Well, that's how it would have to work if it's a gas giant in a sky vacuum, right?
Yeah, you see my point?
But yeah, so that has to be true. If the universe, we live in a heliocentric universe. That's just, it has to be that way.
what I was saying about Bill Bell yesterday. He's called us so much stuff. He's told us how far away the sun was, what the sun was made of. It was amazing.
Well, it's easy to make baseless assertions. Did he actually tell you how he knew any of that stuff?
Are we talking about Phil?
I think for the skies and stuff, he's talking about the pings sending signals. And I forgot what he said. How they know what it's made of. I forgot. So if you listen to Flat Trade Show, oh, forget it. It was like Nate and letting Rumpus just go and say whatever he wanted to say.
It's good Discord. Anybody in there? What's up?
Yo, mic check. There seems to be a lot of audio issues going on right now for some reason. Just in the last minute or so.
Really?
Can you guys hear me?
Damn.
Yeah, we hear you perfectly.
Yeah, we hear you.
Cool. Yeah, and by the way, today
Damn
was a
satellite
great show.
coverage.
A lot of great information today. Today is the type of day when newbie should listen to. There was a lot of random information, so great show today, guys.
Appreciate that, brother.
I miss
Ironically,
Chaiki.
go on, Darwin.
I miss Chaiki. Where's the anti-flat earther making us all squabble again?
I was just gonna mention him, dude. Yesterday it was hard to believe yesterday what was going on. Like cock this of that guy and like first bringing up level, then saying forget about level. I changed my mind.
Well,
Then completely not wanting to talk about level. Then demanding definition for level while everybody's ignoring him, everybody cutting him off. He's literally like talking over everybody. What is the definition of level? What is the definition of level? Just mind-blowing stuff. And then he gets the definition of level, then he's like ignores it, forget about it. I don't want level. Like what was going on yesterday? I could not believe it. Somebody mentioned
that
this
used
guy
to
was like
happen
there
all the
many
time.
like a while back before. I never heard of him, but I could not believe what was going on yesterday. These people are
It
out of
used
their
to be.
minds.
How long have you
Just
been
mind
here,
blowing
Mush?
shit.
How long have you been around? Because if that seems mind blowing to you, that's standard fare.
No, I know. Like, but nah. Yesterday was like, nah, man. The dude bringing up level, and then once John asked him for reference, like what's his highest reference to? Like, he's like, oh, forget about level. I changed my mind. Like he changed his mind. I know, dude. Like I know this is daily shit. Like I've been around forever, man. Yeah. But yesterday was just like mind blowing shit. Like you said, like since this first second until the end, I couldn't believe what this dude was saying. These people have no shame, like no intellectual, like integrity, nothing. That's what like. Yeah, my mind is blown, man. But yeah,
But
it's happening every day, and they're all
Jesus
the same.
Christ.
They're all the same.
Lost souls. Yeah. Go ahead, Darwin.
It
Lost
never
souls, 100%.
changed. It never changed. We're just not used to it anymore because this was standard. And it's like having smoked regularly and you're like, yeah, this is cool and I can handle this. Oh, a newbie. Oh, you got to be careful because they're going to get knocked out. But then you quit for like 5 years, like not smoking anything. And then you like, oh, let's try that again. Yeah, you're going to be that newbie again. So it's just, we're not used to that anymore. But that used to be like every day. Every day they did that.
It's not that we're not used to it. It's that they have become very used to arguing a certain way. And you notice that now when they come back with that same old and busted style, it doesn't work anymore. Like we were supposed to ignore him saying level and just continue to argue about my picture. Right?
Right. You
We
know,
could stop
I
him at
took,
the first word, like John did. Stop him at the first word he said. Level.
well,
Well,
he
compare
had,
that to the last time he came on. It's exactly the same thing. I mean, he hasn't changed a bit, even what he does. And like, oh, ignore this, ignore that. Oh, I changed my mind. That's not new. That's what he used to do.
but see the actual heights, right? Because the argument used to be over the perspective hijacking. Where did you get those actual heights from that you've got labeled in that picture? You know what I mean? It's a problem.
Don't think about that now. Let's just move on. Okay.
Indeed, Darwin.
But I am right, right? I mean, that's exactly what he used to be. The only thing that I missed was like him slowing down his talking a lot because he used to do that eventually if you start grilling him.
Were you not listening? I could have sworn that's what he was doing. Not purposely, maybe, but
Yeah, a bit, but not so pronounced like I remember it. Like we literally used to mimic that for the fun, remember? Like Ed
can
and
never forget.
Frankie. Right. Yeah, gradient. Come on.
Yep, those were the days.
Indeed.
I've got a question.
Bring it on.
Okay, it's for the channel. It's a psychological, kind of sociological marketing question. So, what is the target demographic for the channel? So in marketing, we'll call it just the consumer. And the other question is, what type of consumer were you guys when you so your journey question, the people that are here that are receptive to information, you know, those are the people that come back here to learn more, or well, to understand more. There's an interest and a curiosity and a motivation to be here. For people like this channel, the panel, I would say, there's a particular mindset of this panel. Now, as far as who is this channel broadcasting to, what are we trying to reap here? Kind of listener, right?
Oh, I can answer
I
that.
mean, what's the hyper target? That's the question. And the other question wrapped into that one is, what type of listener were you guys to get here, right? So is that the kind of person or caliber of mindset that's the target?
Okay, I'll answer the first question. Everyone else can answer the second. Who is my target audience? Everybody. Who am I appealing to? Anyone. Hope that answers your question. What type of listener were you before you got here, is the second question he asked. Roto-Ox is the person you're addressing, by the way, if you want to answer that. Feel free. Nobody wants to answer you, Roto. Sorry.
Well, I'll tell you, man.
Just,
I was
I
seeking
had my
truth
hands full at work.
every
so,
level.
We had Mush
um,
first. Go ahead, Mush.
Sorry.
Go ahead. No, you go ahead.
Sorry, no, I was just gonna say I was a truth seeker always, and I'm seeking truth at every level. That's how I got to Flat Earth.
But more specifically, how did you get to here?
Oh, to this channel. Well, just pretty much searching the rest about Flat Earth. Like pretty much a couple of months after finding out about Flat Earth, that was in Nathan Oakley's late 1918. Flat on Flat Earth. I was in your YouTube chat since then, bro.
Right, I'd like to answer since I'm the most senior panelist here. Woohoo! Like, yeah, Nathan Oakley was the guy that first started to like really be skeptical and investigative, even of things that were coming out of flat earthers. That's the thing that really stood out to me about Nathan Oakley is that he's like was micro investigative, and he wouldn't just like go with the crowd kind of guy. And then he started like have a panel show more regularly, and that was the place where there was development, where there was actual good discussions with flat earthers among one another and globers against flat earthers. It was the place. I mean, there were people trying to do such things all over the place, but they had no guidance, no consistency, no discipline. So that was all just messy in the Google days, remember? The Google Hangout days. But it was mostly a mess, and Nathan Oakley was like focused and skeptical towards flat earthers and what they bring forth. And so that's what I think that really was the focus point. That's the thing that's made it what it is and how we now know, like, that's flat earth debate. It's that, like, standard skepticism and confrontationalism. Confrontation. And that's really what's done it. And it's caused us to basically be able to develop much more and broadly insert more and be less concerned with whether we might hurt somebody's feelings because of it. Was
I
that
don't know if that
elaborate?
answered your question, Rotox.
Are we all being asked? Or just as YouTube? I don't know. I've been dealing with patients all day, so sorry, Nathan, I haven't been able to indulge in the conversation, but I got a break.
All righty.
Was that elaborate enough?
Yeah,
or do
that
they-
was good. I do have a.
Well, here's my answer. My answer is this. I was always an anti-lunar landing upbringing child due to my father being a truth seeker, critical thinking individual. And a lot of that most of that runs in my immediate family. But as they got older and indoctrinated, I found out that they didn't cling, or maybe he didn't put in the work to make me as he made me to make them like that. So a lot of times I hit clash with my brothers. But anyway, so as I found out this flat earth thing going on in the internet, I've had my journeys through Eric Bay, David Murphy, Dave Weiss, all of them. So, but my attitude was always, unbeknownst to me until I came upon Nathan, was like Nathan, aggressive, intolerant, not taking any kind of nonsense, and very stern on what I stood on. Even though I stood on a lot of the stuff that I've learned through Nathan that is speculative and not the good arguments of science and physics or celestial navigation, things like that. Nonetheless, when I came across this channel after my many journeys through many YouTube channels, I was attracted to the attitude of the panel and how they were breaking it down in a different kind of way other than the other ones were saying the ice wall, the Antarctic Treaty, all of the things, Admiral Byrd's journey, all these things that pretty much made the globe's argument kind of have more of a leadway to have more strength against the flat earth argument. And the attitude, the perseverance, and the relentlessness to tell the truth. So I'm glad I got onto this. Once I got onto this, I started realizing more things, and I kind of swayed away from the other ones. And Taboo, I still stick with Taboo. I still stick with Eddie Banjo. And I've learned a lot of channels through this panel, through a lot of the guys. I never knew about Brian's logic, never knew about refractive curvature, didn't know about chocolate, So I've grown coming to Nathan. And now, same attitude, intolerant of the bullshit, but now my argument is something that Globers and even the family who I bumped heads with before, when I used to use the Antarctic Treaty and all this stuff, now they're baffled and dumbfounded because they can't find any rebuttal, nonsensical or sensical, retaliative response to me and my argument. They just have to pretty much say, I don't talk about it. So that's me. So you can say I always was a so-called flat earth person because I never believed in the lunar landing and all of that landing on a space rock because the way my father brought me up. But I didn't really know the nature of our inhabitants where we lived until I came here and really understood the details.
Although that's slightly unnerving because it's me you're talking about when the channel has my namesake attached to it. But I get what you're saying. And it's also
Right.
very humbling because in terms of what I would want my channel to be, you and Arwin have just described it. I'm quite proud to hear that that's what you've gotten out of it. Because at the time when Arwin's detailing the skepticism, number one, it surprises me because Arwin was one of the people putting out, careful how I phrase this, some of his ideas at the time that he was attracted to what I was hoping to offer. Now, in that period, I was being shunned by multiple different people because I was skeptical of the stuff that they were proposing, and it was a difficult time. You know, I'm trying to grow the channel and to grow it in terms of what I want, in terms of the truth and nonsense not being on the table to even discuss. I achieved it in the end, but it was a right battle to get there, and it's just nice to hear that the people who are here have sought out what I wanted to offer, and it's become incorporated, by the way D Rose has explained it, into what we as an entity, it's not just Nathan Oakley 1980 as a channel, it's us as a panel, do daily. And it's quite humbling. It makes me proud. So thank you. I'm glad you brought the question up. As much as, like I say, it is slightly uncomfortable to you saying, well, what brought me to Nathan Oakley? I'm like, I don't like this. I don't want to be anyone's guru. It's slightly unnerving. But there we go. Other than it make me feeling slightly uncomfortable and shifting slightly uncomfortably in my seat, the sentiment of what the channel, if I just take it that way, that Nathan Oakley 1980 offers people, is humbling. Yeah, it's really nice to hear it. Great. That's what I want to give people, and what hopefully everyone on the panel wants to give people, which is to say, no nonsense dissemination of what we understand to be true based on, where possible, empirical evidence, and us challenging others who disseminate nonsense for their nonsense and how it doesn't adhere to anything empirical or hasn't got any logical consistency.
And no false promises, right? Because that's what most other flat earthers, they just like, this is it, this is what it is. Oh, look. And they don't know. They don't know. They're just assuming it. It's just more false promises.
That's why I've stuck around here all this time. Straight to the facts, right? Empiricism, what we can prove, not just what we can speculate, what we can talk about. Which speculating is not a bad thing to do.
Mm.
But in this debate, sticking to reality to me is what attracted me to it, and what's kept me to it, or kept me here.
You sit outside the norm, though. All three of you sit outside the norm, because what you've just described is a double-headed coin. Because where you say, no nonsense, no bullshit, basically. Well, when you're deprived of something that you thought you had answers to, and you're your average Joe, I'm about to stereotype, then you go out, rightly so, looking for answers. But you're looking for the easy route to the answers, and if somebody gives you a bullshit story about how they can explain something that was previously explained within heliocentric model, then you're going to lap it up. And if someone like us comes along and says, I don't know, and I'm not going to be so bold as to pretend that I do or come up with a story just to satisfy your interest in the subject, because I don't know, that dissatisfies a lot of people. Now, we take it one step further, which is to say that when people do say, I do know, and they don't, we point out that they don't, and how they don't, and why they don't, and the logical inconsistencies they've used to claim their truth that isn't truth. That won't get you many friends, because the appeal to the general masses is they just want an answer. They had the answer that they hadn't investigated. It was shown to be incorrect. Now they want a straight-up replacement. They don't want to go through the arduous task of finding out. That's too much effort for most people. And when you deprive them of it, they resent you for it. Unlike you, Chocolate, you're the exception to the norm, and Arwin, and everybody else here, I feel. Hey, by the way, Eli, good to have you.
Right, well,
that's one of those things I had to square with myself, like almost immediately. Like, there are going to be some things that I do not know, and I will probably never know. And those things that I can know, great. If we can prove it, if we can establish it as fact, great. If we can't, then oh well. Last thing I'm going to do is sit around crying, oh, I don't have the answer to this. because that would put me right back on a ball or just another version of it. And I'm good on that. I've already lost one quote unquote religion. I don't need to find another one to replace it. I don't need another teddy bear. And that's what I see it as. So
Right.
I'm good right where I am.
Well, we can figure out like what could be if we all preface that very carefully every time. It's like make sure that if you're going to speculate, that you're going to make it very clear that it is speculation, right?
Yeah, but
And
that's
that you
different.
preface it correctly, and that's what I've been focusing
Yes.
on a lot.
But the
to do that.
contextual speculation that we undergo here, Arwin, is done for our own amusement sometimes. Sometimes it's for our own discovery. But there's an unwritten set of rules that we have here that we adhere to when we speculate. And we don't necessarily need to make the disclaimers about how this is just speculation. Sometimes we don't do that, right? But the problem lies when that speculation is being offered up to the masses to satisfy a desire they have because a former answer that may or may not be in existence now it's been relinquished has been taken away from them. And when we address that speculation, it's a very different type of speculation to you postulating how the world might operate, because we're not saying we're going to decide amongst consensus in this group that that is how the world works, and then now we've decided it, we'll disseminate that out to the masses, now we're all in agreement. We'll just debate about the validity of your speculation for the fun of it, or for potential, you know, like with you and Anthony when you were discussing relative density disequilibrium. That came full circle twice. Once when you got to the point when you understood the scientific validity to how a vector change is induced in nature, to only then take it full circle again and say we don't actually need this because we're not making a positive claim, which is where we're at now. So you have to have that journey of discovery to understand what you don't know, to then find out how what you don't know actually works when you're told it's gravity, to then realise that you didn't need to find out how it worked because gravity doesn't exist, there wasn't anything to explain, and the phenomena that they've hijacked can be explained, but to no avail to you because you haven't got a positive claim. In other words, that's a very long process. Years, in fact. Joe, who comes to this show, or any other Flat Earth show, just wants the answers, just like I did when I got banned from Globebusters in the first 6 months. I'm like, stop talking this tosh, just give me some more answers. I've been deprived of them, I want them from you, give them me. Talk about Flat Earth. Well, they didn't like it and they banned me. Right, rightly so, maybe you might say. But the point is, like most, once you've been deprived of those answers, you just want replacements. Quickly. So give them me. If you haven't got them, then I'm going to get annoyed with you. If you tell me that you don't know, well, why are you standing in front of me like you're some guru when you don't know? What an outrage, is the opinion that we get, or I got, when I told people I don't know. I'm sorry, I don't know what the sky is. I'd love to. What, you say it's got to be contained? Yeah, it has. Well, that means you must know what the dome is. No, I don't even claim it's a dome. I don't know what it is. I just know we've got to have containment for gas pressure. That's the end of where I know, because it's a logical inference to take it any further and start asserting domes. I'm not going to do that. What's that? You want a dome? Okay, well, go and find some guru who'll tell you we've got a dome then, because I'm not that person. I'm sorry. Now,
Yeah, there's
some people
plenty
like
of
that.
those.
It's just one more thing. It surprises me when people like Neil, who hasn't piped up yet, like that attitude and are drawn to it, even though sometimes it goes against their bias that they still seek. Sorry to use you as an example, Neil, with domes.
I'd like to point out that, you know, based on Newton's writings, it seems like he understands exactly what we're talking about, because it seems like the purpose for gravity is really to explain some sort of observation rather than make or posit a position that, you know, gravity is actually pulling things and it's actually a force.
It's an apologetic, an excuse. But there's no phenomena to study, so there's nothing for us to explain because we don't have a positive claim attached to it. So when you find out that it's a folly, you don't necessarily find out that there isn't a phenomenon to be studied to assert that there's gravity. Then you still move forward thinking, okay, well, gravity's clearly a lie, I've been lied to about space, and fourth dimensional space-time bending isn't real. But there must still be a downward vector. Releases helium balloon, looks up at clouds. You know what I'm getting at? So we end up with flat earthers who are trying to explain their version of gravity. It's like, why have you taken it to this place where we have this phenomena that doesn't exist being explained when you don't have a positive claim to defend? There's no need for you to have this claim. Maybe they're a cog in a machine they don't know they're in. Who knows? There's that conversation I was hoping to have earlier, not developing into anything. Alas, I can but try.
It's a dome.
Yeah, perfect timing. That's why Neil's here, by the way. That comedic timing is what we need from Neil. Perfect timing. You don't know what the sky is, Neil. I don't know what the sky is. I'd love to. One of the first questions I asked, why is it blue?
I don't know what the sky is. We don't know, but
Why
I
is
do
it
know
blue?
that the
Yeah, why is it
Bible
blue?
talks about, I won't say dome. Listen, it says something covering us, and we have to have something covering us because we have gas pressure, right? I don't know what it is, I don't know what the shape is, but it makes sense that it would be a dome, no?
I love your angle. About as ham-handed as it gets. Yes, Neil, I affirm there is a dome. Very well done for cornering me. No, you didn't. I'm not going to say that, Neil.
I think the sky is blue, by the way, because of like a scattering thing. It's just because of the air, what it looks like when you look through it, and that would also explain like when you go up really high, that above you is suddenly black and underneath you blue, because well, there's less air. So I'm concluding that it's the air that you're looking through that's causing the blue effect, the preponderance of it.
That's just the heliocentric version of Rayleigh scattering. That's all you're detailing.
Yeah, but I mean, it still seems to be that.
Okay, where's the sun in that equation then? I know how it exists within the
all
heliocentric.
around
Hold on, I haven't finished my question. I know how it exists within the description of the heliocentric version of scattering, right? Once you debunk space and the sun position with us bowing to it and moving around it, that no longer works because you don't have their position of the sun versus their position of us on Earth. So, first thing we're going to need to know if you're going to claim the same scattering as in the heliocentric model is, what is the sun and where is it?
It's over there.
That's no good. No, not going to fly. Fail.
No, but it is there, is it not? It has an angular position in relation to any observer, so it's there, and there is air in that apparent location.
Total fail.
Is it? Right, so I'm not saying it is like literally like the heliocentric model, but I mean, it does seem to be that it's just light being there, shining around, is like making the looking through the air blue.
What was it that Kiwi says?
No light,
What we love is your excruciating attention to detail. Thank you, Arwin. So specific.
Hey, you got to take what you can get, you know?
He said, hey.
Bonzarello.
I mean, why else would the sky be black when you go all up there, even though the sun is out? You know?
I don't know. I'd need to know what it is. That's why I asked.
As far as I'm concerned, it's a non-local hologram that doesn't have any actual position.
Reminds me of something that Martin Leaker's mother said about Martin Leaker. There's, quote, doesn't he talk a lot of shite? End quote.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah. You're doing just what you said you came to the station for because they didn't make any claims about what things are. Right? Didn't you and Chocolate and D-Rose just say that?
Yeah. But it's just this is what I think it is, and I've argued it before. Position remains. And yeah, I mean, technically, I can't prove it's a hologram if it were one. But still, all lack for any physical object in a Euclidean location is just missing entirely. All the factors.
Sounds like.
So I don't know what else to designate it with then.
Sounds like non-physicality bias.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't designate it with
Hold
anything
on.
else. You sound like the other ones that say, I don't know what it is if nothing doesn't exist.
You missed what Chocolate
Just
said.
save yourself the trouble.
Chocolate said it's a non-physicality assumption bias that Arwin's holding. He's using his own terminology against him, just reversing it to non-physicality rather than physicality. I don't think Arwin picked up on what was going on though.
I picked up on that. That's fair enough, right?
Yeah, me and Arwin have had it out before with this, because his assertion that it's a hologram is that's what it is to me. It's not physicality assumption, because we don't know if it's physical or not.
No, but we know that within every observation we've ever had, every attempt at interaction or motion towards, that all the signs of actual physicality and location are missing. There's no size increase upon approach. It's just, it's not actually there.
Upon approach.
Yeah.
Who approached the
Okay,
sun?
this is what this is how I look at
Going
it.
up, going up, going towards it.
All right, is everything that we see physical?
No.
Wait.
Oh, there we. Okay, so then, I mean, I know you always put the premise as a speculation, but that's the point that I was saying earlier. Because I had to run away from a page, and I heard the ending part of it. Is that like things like the sun and the moon, being that we can't touch it, we're not near it to really measure it or tell what its construct is and stuff like that. It's okay to say, and that's the problem. If these guys like DeGrasse and all of them and Sabine, if they would just humbly admit that, this is what we like to discuss. We like to philosophically have conceptual, conjecture, but they don't do that. They try to say that this is what we've done upon our study, but upon the science, and people fall for it because of who they are. So that's back to what the question was. That's what I love about Nathan and what he's taught me. If you can't prove it, or if you've never been there, if I've never been to Paris, I can't talk about the food in Paris. I can talk about the French food that's being sold here in the United States, portraying to be French food, but just say what you know, say what you can prove measurably, observably.
Yeah, we get it.
Hold on, but you could eventually get there, right?
Oh, really?
You could eventually get to France.
You will never
Can
get
we
to the
ever
sun.
get to the sun or the moon or the stars?
Right, exactly, Neil. Never.
Back to the approaching of the sun. Who tried to approach the sun? Arwin?
Icarus.
Okay. Thank you.
Wait, is the story where the father tells the boy, it's the story about flying, and then he says, but the reason birds don't fly too high is because their wings would melt. And so he begins, teaching the boy how to fly. He eventually introduces feathers or whatever that the boy uses to fly. And the boy flies up high enough to do exactly what his father told him not to do, and his wings melt off because he was trying to reach the sun.
Right. So that is that story has physicality assumption bias within it, because it, as a preface, assumes that the sun is a thing that you can approach.
Well, check this out. Then I would say, as a layman coming back, then how come when you get higher in altitude, it gets colder if you're getting closer to the sun? It should get burning hot as you're going up 40,000, 50,000 feet, whether you're in a weather balloon or whether you're in any type of aircraft, and you're just hovering, not just going 200 to 1,000 miles per hour across the plane, but it should be burning hot as you go up higher, if that's the case.
Right. Well,
that's the whole mystery of the sun.
The radiation should be less obstructed if it's indeed traveling or inducing from that sun assumed to be object towards us here on Earth. Then yes.
Right. And what about those videos that we see? We do see these videos. I don't know, and I'm not going to say whether they're, manipulated or whatever, but I wouldn't believe so. These are pilots sitting in a plane. They're looking across their wing or out of their cockpit to the left. And it appears to be like the sun is within clouds, under clouds, like a ball. Now, is that a projection from the actual sun in the, higher?
Nope, that's how other projections work.
You dig what I'm saying?
That's just because it's a hologram. And
A projection.
No. See how I didn't make the. All I said was that's how other projections work.
Exactly. The
All you
Batman
gotta say.
projection from the Batman signal. Yep.
Man, you guys don't follow space travel. Korea landed on the sun a few years ago. You guys don't remember that? They just
Landed
did it
on,
at night, right?
landed on the sun.
Yeah,
Did you say?
exactly. They literally claimed that, dude.
No, I don't remember that.
I remember that. That was a silly news article.
I thought that was just a joke.
I think it is.
Is that why
No,
they
that
call
was
it
that was an
soul?
ex-
Is that why they call it
that was a,
Solar Korea? Seoul Korea?
Sol.
That's Seoul.
Yeah, you got to be careful how you say this next stuff, Roto, because when you say no, that's real, as in no, that is punted to the public out in the Far East as being real, right? Yes, but it isn't real.
I think it was like a sarcastic article. I don't think it was. Unless I'm wrong. Maybe
Yeah, he
it
was
was
being
reported
facetious.
to them.
Trust me,
I think
Roto
it was
being
one of the
facetious.
space travel agencies. I think it was a real article, dude. I think they really claimed that, hoping people will believe it. I don't think it was a sarcasm. To us, it was
Hey,
maybe.
let me tell you
Oh no,
something
not you.
about
No, not the
the
article. I'm
great
talking about you.
commercial.
You, Roto, was being sarcastic.
Hey guys, for real, you live in a commercial. Kim Jong-un, the propaganda is that he invented hamburgers, that he has a flying carpet, things of this nature, that he can fly. This is propaganda from the government to the people there. See? I mean, man has an arrogance to create his own domain, and he can't stand not being in control of things. So power is going to give you these types of personalities, and what you see is a curation of your reality that's told to you, and you'll notice things like if there's a picture of space, or if there's a picture of let's say an astronaut posing, he'll be in garb, he'll have his hand placed on the helmet, there'll be a folded flag in the back. Everything is properly placed for your mental image, right? And as soon as you get people agreeing on a mental image, then it becomes an authority, right? It becomes its own manifested power. And that's what we're looking at here. I mean, what we're looking at here is information being passed down as a mental image of people thinking that you can see the Earth's edges from high up, that you see it as a ball, that you see water curving, that you see the clouds and the atmosphere curving around this ball. It's a mental image, and since it's coming from authority, you know, it's difficult psychologically speaking for a lot of people to go against that because it's so agreed upon. But you'll see, and as you get out of, say, like the United States and you look at advertising elsewhere, especially from the government, propaganda is old. It is old. That's why they used to have the world fairs. They would bring the propaganda to the places, right, that couldn't see the info. Now we're in the information superhighway and it's going crazy. So here's what we're looking at. And that's why I was asking earlier about the nature of this channel. I mean, there's a reason that I stay, and it's because of the standard. It's because that there's no claims of, if you don't know what it is, that you have to fill the void with some sort of information. There's no need to do that. What is the sun? I mean, how arrogant of men, right? I mean, there's no one man on this earth that's ever looked and can say that they're smarter than any one of us. Their eyes work different. There's no way to reach out to it. It's only observation. And see, I mean, this is where we're at with all this. So I ask this panel, and Nathan specifically, so I want to throw something on the table here a little bit, just to be disseminated. It's part of assumption a little bit, but to create this thing to be dissected by you guys, the target is the newbie, right? The market here for this channel. So let's say that there is a personality archetype that all of you guys share, and the word would be curiosity. I'm just going to assume that all of you have fallen victim throughout your life suffering from curiosity. And that's the thing that all of us have in common, and not everybody has that. So target demographic would be a newbie, and I'm going to throw like John out there because he had resistance to the information, but he's here on this side of it now. So he's an interesting personality. Most of the Globers are defending something, they're not touchable, right? So let's just say that the newbies are coming in and they're curious. Here's my question. What are they hearing? They are hearing very good stuff. The reason I'm here and the reason most people hear when I asked the question earlier, and the answer seemed to be because of the way Nathan runs the show, the standards that he sticks to. It's very, very good. So it's the North Star of all these channels. And here's the question though. In marketing, so let's say a newbie comes by. He's curious. He's good soil. His ears are a radar for the info. What does he hear though? So let's just say, now here's the point I want disseminated by you guys, and especially you, Nathan, primarily, is if the topic of the day is something like Earth moving up versus something that the globe claims, like water curves. Okay? I mean, all day, what's not the rock is everything else, meaning if it's not a globe claim, it's chasing rabbits somewhere. It's disproving ether. It's debunking such and such. We're talking about how is it possible to land on Mars and things like this. And then you go through all the ways, and then, you know, other channels, for example, talk about there's too much radiation. Well, I mean, you start getting, that's Fanta. Is the horizon curved? Is not. Keeping it boots on the ground, keeping it physical, keeping it within the material, calling what's material, calling what is non-material that, like what is light? Is it material? Do we really know? These types of questions are great. For most part, the show, I think, has ran around wonderful globe claims, mostly. But there are these things that are slipping through, and maybe it's the evolution of the show as it grows. But like whether the Earth goes up or not. What's that? I'll let it go. I just wanted to throw that out there to see what people thought about what is being.
Go on. One last time.
What's that?
Wait 1 second. You want to throw it out there. You're about to summarize so we can all get our teeth into what you were summarizing. But Neil's interrupted you. Go ahead.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, I did. So, right. So it is that what the show is actually, for example, 10th brings up great claims. The sextant, the navigation, this has been a great addition to the show. Just as I will say, QE has when he did the Black Swan, I think it was episode 1030, when he did the Black Swan, it was a beautiful presentation. He handled it well. It was a claim. There was the visuals to go along with it. It was easily understood. He stepped through it. He engaged with you, Nathan, and the rest of the panel. It was wonderful. It was a beautiful gem of an addition to what the movement is about. But what it did do was address the globe claims, and it was a wonderful job. Nathan, I commend you and salute you on this because that's what you do most all the time. But So my question is the nature of what's being talked about, the topics, globe versus anti-flat claims, which include things like ether, debunking things like that, to the newbie. So I'm going to assume that's the target market, curious as well, receptive to new info, like what this show could give. They come to the channel for the very first time. What are they hearing? And I'll leave it at that to see what you think, Nathan.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to answer because I don't think what we do here is necessarily digestible easily by a newbie. Sometimes we do. We'll say, oh, just so the newbie understands. But on the whole, the conversation's always going to move into a slightly more advanced flat earth understanding or globe debunking. So while you say it's targeted at the newbie, I don't think we are. I think in terms of flat earth, Mark Sargent is a great gateway into the subject. As much as and others have got criticisms of how Mark does what he does, Mark's genuinely one of the good guys, and he does offer up a nice digestible route into the subject. So, I don't know, when you say newbies, that's the only bit I struggle to give you an answer on that level with, because I don't think we are for newbies, are we?
If I can interject too and concur, just allude to what you're saying. As far like Nathan said, for me, the newbies, me being one time a newbie, you got your collabs from TikTok who has a broad expansion of things that you could say is speculative and things you kind of, lean on or can prove or not prove. Then you got your Dave Weiss, you got your Mark Sargents, you got your Eric DeBays. There's a whole bunch of them out there for the newbies. But even though we like to bring on the newbies, and even though we don't actually go after the newbies, we just basically go after the globers who try to make positive claims and we strip them apart. If the newbies catch on to it, that's fine. But at the end of the day, it's more of kind of like shredding apart the positive claims, whether it comes from other anti-flat earthers or other anti-globers who call themselves flat earthers that bring up the ether, bring up the rising earth. You made a positive claim, we shred it apart. The newbies, let's give credit to somebody like Blind Spot. Okay, Blind Spot is an excellent example of the most recent newbie who is a self-proclaimed newbie who wasn't so much ignorant to everything, but he was on the fence, as he admitted. But he demanded what Nathan requires on this show. He's one of those newbies that was like, okay, I'm gonna listen to everybody, but then you're gonna have to prove to me what you got to say. And he admitted that when he came here, that's what he loved about this show, is that nobody makes positive claims which they can't prove. And anybody else that makes a positive claim, that's why I think it was Adam gave him the assignment for the Witsit situation. He did his homework, and Neil was, kind of worrisome, maybe facetiously, but still he had the concern that, don't let him go that way because I can kind of dilute his grounds where he stands on. But no, what it did, because of Blind Spot being that special kind of newbie, he was able to go over there, dive into that pool, swim in it, and still be able to come out clean with his own critical thinking perspective. So that's what that. So let's give credit to Blind Spot on that.
Let me say something. The only reason I said that was this: when I got in arguing the whole flat earth, all I had is the piece of answer. So I'm saying, if we have something other than that, why put them there? You know what I'm trying to say? I wasn't worried. I just like, why put them there? Why put them in a piece of answer when you have freaking filet mignon here?
Yeah, I understood all of that now. Not really.
What was that roboting?
Yeah, your mic is just the kind of.
Okay, hold on a second. I'm in a work site. So is it better now? A little better? Somewhat better?
Much, a lot better.
Forget it. Later. I'll say.
No, but I heard what you said, Neil. You said, being that he had filet mignon here, why go have him eating some spam somewhere else and mess up his. But Adam had confidence in the way Blind Spot carried himself and articulated his own critical thinking, attributes that he wasn't going to put him in danger of being poisoned. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
that's what I'm saying. I wasn't worried
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah, yeah. And I know
wasn't
you
worried
being
about it.
facetious. I know you're really being facetious when you just say, "Don't let him go that way." You know, I know what you said, but that was a
But
good
when
sign.
he
Of
came back, look what he said. It was kind of tempting, right? What's the word he used?
No, he said
He used
admitted
the
it.
word.
No, he said if he never came here, he can see how influential those other channels could be.
It was a
to
word he
someone.
used.
To go back to was it Roto who asked that very elaborate question? Is that who that was? I don't want to mix it up.
I think so.
I understand what you
Yeah.
mean, because sometimes I feel like a newbie turning this show on and listening, it I think it requires a certain type of mindset to understand what it is that we're saying and what we're putting out. Because I mean, some of the things, even if you go back a couple of years, some of the things that we say are different, right? Because we have to advance, right? Some of them come from the things that we've been told, right? Even if you look at the housekeeping questions, right? The first housekeeping question used to be, is there any sign of earth curve, right? It was that simple. Now, if you listen to the question now, is there any sign of a physical sphere edge horizon formerly known as the curve of the earth, right? Now that's kind of the same question, but not really. And why is the question advanced like that? Because of different things that we've been told, because of an argument that we've put out and the response that we've gotten to such argument, which is why it's formally known, because it used to be known as the curve of the earth, right? Matter of fact, we used to stand by while we were told we have a claim of an edge, right? And when I say we, I mean like as flat earthers, not really here. The claim of edge until we realized, no, hold up. It's them who has a claim of edge. That the edge that the boat's falling over, that's their claim, right? So, I mean, things change, and like that's what you got to do with new information is you got to, you got to mold to the new information you get, especially if it's empirical, right? So I get what you mean. Yeah, I don't know. That's as much as I could really say on that, because I know for some newbies they'll listen to this and just be like, "What the hell are these guys talking about?" You know. But it depends on what, like, straight up. Yeah, this show is not meant for everybody. Like we could say that off the rip. But
Well, they'd have to get into it, right? It's like this is another world. This is like a parallel universe here that's happening. It must be like that. The newcomers that have no idea about that this exists, they only heard like nonsense flat earthers, and so they come here and it's like, wait, what? What is all that? And then they just notice that cohesion that we seem to follow, and then it's up to them. Like, do you want to really understand that? That's going to take some energy. Are they willing to do that? And if they are, if they're just really curious, then yeah, they'll get into it and they'll take it. And they'll be a flat earth debater, at least in their minds.
That cohesion is brought upon by just sticking to truth. Right?
Yeah, methodology.
Yeah. Which is why, again, why I've remained here all this time, because that's what I like. I don't know if I've answered your question in any favorable way to you, Roto, but that's what I got for now.
Yeah, no, it wasn't a favorable way. You know, I'm just putting something on the table and letting the response lace the design of what it is. I mean, it's just what you guys think is the way the show is going to go, right? I mean, it's going to be a self-fulfilling and, I mean, kind of a divining rod of collective minds. I would foresee, because that's the way it's already happening. And it's kind of the way you guys are describing it. The adaptation to, as the show continues, the information, you've come a long way since Brenda, right? And
Yeah.
shoes, whatnot, come a long way. I mean, the show's tight. It's tight. So just noticing that the rope isn't unraveled, there's a usefulness to it. And, you know, it may be more useful than thought of at the moment, or in the past at least. It may be more useful because
look where we're at now. I mean, now we've got Globers coming in telling us exactly how flat it is in order to get angles off of it. Like 5 years ago, we didn't think that was going to be the case.
Exactly.
5 years ago, we didn't think the case would be that curve of the earth that you think are blocking boats and buildings in the distance. That we can't see that. Like, we didn't think that was going to happen.
Yeah. See,
that's where the truth is.
See, all these the what's edifying, the building blocks of this, it's a structure at this point. But really, in my opinion, the outstanding blocks of the structure come with the actual globe claims that are being taught in the education systems. What those actual claims are the standout blocks that build this show, like the Black Swan as probably the cornerstone, right? But into the sextant also, that's coming off globe claims. Strangely, that's a nice one because in the same globe, in the books, it's showing you how to navigate flat. Nice, you know. To watch the globe try to cover up now is kind of funny. If they were that smart, they wouldn't have let the info come out to begin with, however many years ago. That's the beautiful thing about people, you know. I mean, there's always room for the goodness. Somehow it shines through. But in this case, it would be information. And it's like having the damning books about how we navigate flat from the globe itself. But now we see how they've morphed that into flat as a curve, and how you can also seam the two together from navigating flat, and you see how the globe has to do it. They're still flat, but they're putting it on a sphere, right? They move it down, they do all the stuff. It's the same thing, it's just transposed. So we see this trick as a pattern. So it's the same with a map. They use the same trick using a map, right? I mean, it's a flat plane in all respects. It has been mapped as such. Then when you project that map onto a shape, you can still plot, right? There's going to be a lot of errors, but they have found a way to show the world that it's a sphere and plot, and convincingly so. To anyone navigating using GPS and stuff like that, I can see how there would be resistance in saying that, you know, we navigate on a sphere because of GPS and, you know, the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, all this, cargo every day. I can see how it would be tough for the average Joe hearing things like what this channel brings to pry them away from the power of authority. It takes a curious mind that does not absorb what they're told. There was I think it takes a little bit of rebellion, a little bit of contra in the personality to begin with, to truly embrace what the information that this channel brings. And I think it's easy, and I bet you there's only a couple of people that it was difficult to get here with. And I'm not talking about to Nathan's channel, I'm talking about in your mind, understanding of where you live, right? I mean, I bet it was easier for most of you. So I'm saying you were good earth, you were good ears, you're a demographic of person. Because there wasn't a lot of resistance for most of you. I would be willing to bet, I would roll the bones if I ask every one of you individually how easy it was for you to get here mentally with the information, I mean. Right? And because you got here with that information, you see the value in Nathan's show.
In my, what's the word I'm looking for? In my experience, the resistance started way before the topic became even known to me. Because again, I was somebody as a kid fascinated with the sky. I spent a lot of time as a kid imagining what the hell's going on up there and relating that to the same stories that I'm hearing in schools at the same time. A lot of that didn't make sense to me. And then I was so fascinated with the globe that at some point when I got on a plane for the first time going to Disney World or whatever it was, I wanted to see the curve of the earth. And I didn't understand how I was too not high enough. Like, this is literally as my face is glued to the window, and I'm the same way now. Like, I get on a plane even as an adult, and I'm just staring out the window like I'm a 10-year-old because the earth fascinates me. And I just couldn't understand how is it I'm not high enough to see this curve, and you don't relate that really at the time to, well, you're supposed to see it from the beach. Right? So how is it something I can see from being on the sand at the beach? I can't see when I'm 30,000 feet in the air. And just that, and little dribs and drabs of information and things that come out. And then I saw this guy Bart Sabrell's things, his movies, Astronauts Gone Wild, and the other one, Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Moon. And just little things like that kept coming out and kept coming out, didn't stop coming out, which just give me the hint that there's something wrong here. Like, to me, people don't really use it as evidence, but to me, the entire way that the astronauts, right, these heroes acted with Bart Sabrell, to me, that was a dead giveaway, right? It's not empirical. It's just human characteristics, right? Human personality. But it's one of those things that say, wait a minute, if these people are real heroes and really did what they say they did, they wouldn't act like this, So again, it's not empirical evidence, but it's one of those things, one of the breadcrumbs, I guess you could say, that led me down this path. Now I sit and listen to astronaut like Alan Bean talking about, oh yeah, we didn't know the effects because we didn't go through that part of space, talking about the Van Allen belts. And then he had to be told that he went through the Van Allen belts. Like, what? How does that make sense, bro? You're the guy. You're the guy that went through it. How did you have to be told by the interviewer?
If you don't know, it ain't gonna hurt you. Sorry.
What?
If you don't know, it ain't gonna hurt you.
I can't make out anything you're saying. Your satellites are malfunctioning.
It's gonna hurt you. They didn't know, so it didn't hurt them.
Oh yeah.
Neil, are you drinking? Are you drinking laying carpet, man?
You just can't hear me. What the fuck? Am I talking French? Holy shit.
Parlez-vous français?
He's saying what
that room sounds like
referring to an astronaut. He said,
False
"What you
heard,
don't know
right?
can't hurt
So
you."
it's selective hearing. Selective freaking hearing. I see. Now you heard. How about now? Any better? How about chicken now? Still nothing?
Sound good, Neil. I can hear you.
Yeah, you sound great, Neil.
It's just the tone of your voice. You know, sometimes frequencies with a thin, shrill voice like yours, it kind of has that, you know, that mid, high squeakiness to it. You know, can't help that.
Hey, I want to throw this out there. Just side note, if anybody wants to use fedebate.com, it redirects straight to Nathan's YouTube channel. Just as something simple, and it will remain that way.
Really? Did you do
something
that?
simple to share. Yeah, it's no big deal. You know, just a minor contribution. Just simply, if you type in the domain, it just redirects to Nathan's YouTube channel. So, if it makes it easier for people to share, to get people to Nathan's show, you know.
Cool. Thanks.
Yeah, that's nice, man.
Yeah.
Good.
But
Go on, brother.
but Chocolate's testimony is pretty much like mine. Mine was due to my already conspiracy theorist attribute. So I was always the one that didn't see the glass half full. I always knew that there was something around. So I'm like that guy. I was like that guy that you were talking about the other day, Chocolate, that it's funny how the rest of them believe in, you know, the conspiracies of 9/11 and this and that and the other. But then when it comes to the globe, they want to say, oh, no, that's no conspiracy there. I was the opposite.
Yeah,
I was
that's
like,
100%. Yeah, yep.
yeah. See, now I wasn't that guy. I was that guy that you know, people said, oh, God, is everything? Yeah.
Hold on one second,
Everything to
D-Rose.
me.
Sorry to interrupt. Can you just pop yourself on mute, Roto? Thanks.
I was saying everything to me had another side of the story to it. Everything. And that's why, you know, and I guess that's what my father instilled in me. You know, because he told me when I was 7, 8 years old, too, that moon landing, that's garbage. And he broke it down to me why. He showed me books. Now, I wasn't breaking it down like entropy and the law of thermodynamics, but he broke it down to me another way that, you know, that was in certain books. Like I guess these were books of people who knew it was a lie and wrote about it, and there wasn't no censorship in those books. You know, so I already had that frame of mind. And then when I used to hear people say, you know, they tried to always correlate primitive caveman thinking as flat earth. Well, dumb, think that earth. I always looked at it like, wait a minute, hold up. You know, I mean, according to going to the moon, it's the same correlation with this sphere Earth. So if they lied about landing on the moon, so me looking for flat Earth once the internet became the information venue of all, it kind of helped me be able to find a lot of answers. And that's why I said what my journey was. The only place I found that was straight up facts. No, you know, straight to the chase was the Nathan Oakley.
What else? What else? Something else making a noise in Discord. You guys hear that?
The newbies and the regulars. That's one thing I like about Eddie.
One sec,
He
D-Rose.
doesn't. He just.
Just one sec.
Huh?
Rayleigh Criterion. Could you pop yourself
I'm
on
waffling.
mute? Just gonna make.
I'm watching. Sorry.
Rayleigh Criterion. Can you pop yourself on? Something else. Okay, thanks. Sorry, D-Rose.
No, I was saying, and that's why I give Eddie his props too, because he allows the voice of the people who don't have the information we have to let you know that there is a movement, there is a change of the paradigm. The paradigm is changing, and he lets you hear the different things. And mind you, they talk about the same old parroting stuff, you know, of ice wall and this and that. But still, there is a movement, an awakening going. That's why I said before, you know, don't think that, you know, the globe is winning. The globe is actually losing. They just have hierarchy, people in position, purporting the nonsensical heliocentric argument. And then, of course, Taboo. Taboo is pretty much on point with us, the closest. That'll be a main channel because he does talk about flight paths, angles of the sun, perspective. He does break down things like that. And he doesn't really get into too much of the stuff that Dave Weiss and all of them argue about. But but here at Nathan Oakley FED, there's no ifs, ands, or buts. It is what it is, and like Chocolate said, or Eli said, or like Adam said before, when he said to me, admit when you're wrong. If you don't know, you don't know. But don't just go around waffling stuff to impress others or to abuse people's intelligence and insult the intelligence of the dumbfounded or the people that know better by saying what things are and make positive claims. Then when you ask, can you prove it? You can't prove it. And then you get mad because you can't prove it. Then you start calling that person who put you out there on Dumb Street, you're going to call them all kinds of names, like the way Dell did Nathan. Just say, okay, you got me. All right, let me do my homework. I'll get back to you later with it. And if you can't find it, then just concede and say, I guess I was wrong. But it's like nobody has to be all-knowing, And we're not here trying to be all-knowing.
I think it's more of an insult on intelligence for me to assert some story to you that I have no backing or proof for and make you try to understand that that's real. I think that's more insulting than, just saying, I don't know that particular thing and I might not never know, but I won't pretend to know just to pass it off as a cool story. That's something I'll never do.
Exactly. Like a parent shouldn't do that to a child, and a scholar, so-called self-proclaimed scholar, should not do that to a listening audience or or on a live stream speaking. You shouldn't do that. Just say, well, this is my opinion. Once you do that, then people can look at it for that value. It's an opinion.
It was seeking of information that brought me here. That's what made me type into the YouTube search Flat Earth debate. And literally this was the first thing that popped up back before I think the censorship hit us. And they were like, oh, this thing is spreading, we need to stop this. But before that, I was able to just put in Flat Earth debate and this popped up. And like I said, it was the information that we came across and how we disseminated it is what kept me here. Because before that, I was listening to different arguments. The argument was, why does NASA have in their 1988 document that the Earth is flat and stationary? Now, that's an awfully dope side note, right? But is it an argument? Not so much, but that's what it was being purported as, like an actual argument. The way we would argue, I don't know, elevation angles or black swan right now.
I'm sorry to do this to you, Chocolate. I'm really sorry to interrupt your flow.
Yeah, go ahead.
Can Nick just get a sound check from someone in Discord? There's some weird level issue that was causing some weird hissing sound. I just tracked it down, so now I need to re-level Discord if someone can talk to me.
1, 2, 3, mic check, mic check. I was hearing the sound too. It's pretty annoying.
Is it gone now?
It was coming through on my system as well.
Yes, it's gone now. It's good.
Say again, Mighty Mush. Thank you, Robo. Or Rayleigh, whoever.
See, once you... Yeah, I can hear it again now. Once you talk, it seems like it's coming from you. Right now it's quiet. Now I can't hear it.
Yeah, I can still see it. It's still there in Discord for some reason. If I have the Discord level slightly too high internally, it seems to... Go on.
Once you start talking, the noise comes. Once you're quiet, there's no noise. Right now it's silence.
I'm not getting any
when
noise.
Steve-O come around,
Yeah,
I'll be
I can hear it
quiet.
now.
No.
But when Haley, I'll be talking
God,
again.
thank you so much while I sort out my sound issue for causing audio chaos, Chocolate. Really appreciate it. I know it's you in the middle of talking, but I just need to sort this out. Otherwise, your talking is going to be interrupted by a hissing sound over the top of every word you say. Okay? So I just need to sort this out. Thank you, whoever it was that can hear it. Can you still hear it now?
Once you stop talking, I can't hear it. Once you start talking again, there's a slight, like you lowered it a little bit, but I can still hear the humming. Usually your sound is perfect, but now when you start talking, I can hear the humming in the back. Now when you're not talking, there's no sound at all.
In other words, you can still hear some weird sound hissing through Discord when I'm talking.
Yes, but you did something where you lowered it right now, but I can still hear the humming or hissing, whatever you call it. Yep.
Okay. Yeah, I've had to turn Discord right down, and if I turn it back up again, that's what you're hearing.
It's fine on my end. I turned my volume up to 100
Yeah, okay.
and I could not hear the hissing.
Whoever's telling me it's fine their end, that's not any use to me. But thank you. Yes, wonderful that it's great for you. Okay, not my priority. No offense. Okay, right. This might be something I have to do off recording because it's going to take a lot more figuring out by the looks of things. But that's a bit irritating.
Hey, Nathan, do you think it might be your gate?
I don't know what it is, but let's not discuss it now because I don't know what it is, and I'll have to figure it out after the fact. Go ahead, Chocolate. I'm sorry to have interrupted your flow like that.
Nah, it's all good. It's getting noisy. Having machinery to operate, so somebody else can
But
go.
hey, Chopper, from what you was talking about with that when they show the documents, that's one of the things I've seen a lot. That's another part of the that's like the counter NASA, because for those who like to use NASA for their globe truth, or I would say a weak argument is like what I learned was let's disregard that we could see the obvious glitches in the green screen, blue screen backgrounds and the microphone going through the body and things like that, which are good. They're good points to prove as evidence that NASA is nothing but deceitful, or the whole name NASA in Hebrew, Paleo Hebrew, meaning beguile, you know what I'm saying? Things like that. Those are good points to bring up, but it's not great in an argument. And even with the documents, like you said, the documents from NASA or from the military, as far as the Air Force and the Navy jets talking about, you can see stationary plane, flat immovable Earth. Those are good things to bring up as exhibits to show that even your masters, NASA, admit that it is a stationary plane Earth, even though they purport in the mainstream the nonsense. So that's good. But what I learned here is that you don't have to go there. All you have to do is talk about entropy and the law of thermodynamics. That pretty much decapitates everything else. And then the other things can be little exhibits you could bring up. But that argument right there is irrefutable, undeniable. That's the difference between here and a globe buster.
Okay, sorry to do this again. Can you guys in Discord still hear me okay, first of all?
Yeah, I can hear you, Nathan. And it seems like you fixed it, whatever you did.
Brilliant. Now I just need to re-level someone. Can we just have a quick conversation with whoever in Discord just so I can level you back up now I've solved the problem?
Yeah, most of my the buzz I was hearing was mostly when D-Rose was talking. I could hear it the most.
Blame it on the new guy, right?
Yes, indeed. Let's blame it on the new guy.
All right, I put my volume at 50%.
D-Rose.
So nobody could still hear me.
Okay, Neil
I bet,
and
right?
D-Rose. What part of I am trying to solve a Discord audio issue makes you think I need to hear from you? No offense. I know I'm interrupting a conversation that you are having in G+, but I do just need to solve this issue and then check that the levels are okay. I'm really sorry, but that just means for a moment or two, I just need to hear from Discord. Third time saying it. Can I have a conversation with someone in Discord? I just need to level up Discord. And then once I'm done, I can stop doing this.
What should we talk about, Nathan?
Anything,
Talk about
I
Sabine?
couldn't care less what, just so long as you're talking.
All right. So Sabine lost in her own world today, unfortunately, and it was quite a shame to see attempt appeal to her motive, but we all do that. It's so easy to go there. I've done it. So I'm guilty of it so many times. I've had to rein it in now. I have to tell myself off before I say it. No, Liam, don't appeal to motive.
Perfect.
Are they lying? Who cares?
Thank you.
Is that all
And
right, Nathan?
thank
Is that
you,
enough?
You
Jesus.
don't have it fixed, then we don't care.
Yeah. Thank you, Neil. It's like I'm talking in some foreign language, clearly. Although I was about to say I am done now, but Neil preemptively decided. I can't really get angry when I was about to say, yeah, you can talk now. But Neil didn't get that instruction before he did, which kind of annoys me.
No, Neil's ignoring instructions today
You have to
because
talk
I
in
know you
Brooklyn.
fixed it. I know you fixed it. And if you didn't, after all that time, when that guy was struggling to get a conversation with himself, then the heck with you.
Anyway, I'm done now. Sorry, Chocolate. It was actually Chocolate on the mic.
Nathan, you just gotta forgive Neil. He speaks in Brooklyn, so.
No offense, Neil, but I love when you take the berating and I don't.
And thank you, Sensual Goat.
Glad to be of help.
Have I killed the conversation now? I'm really sorry.
Yeah, we're all scared now.
I just hate audio issues. I know for the last hour or two that's been an audio issue throughout the entirety of this show, which bugs the hell out of me, and I'm now annoyed about it. So, Neil needs telling off because I'm annoyed about something audio related.
You haven't graduated till you get a for the love of fuck chocolate. That's my favorite one.
Yeah. Shut the fuck up.
Can we all stop swearing now, please?
Oh, sorry. But back to what we were talking about. Even if you're a newbie or a flat Earth proponent, and you come out on this show and you say, and I've been corrected many times, if you bring up anything that you can't prove, you're going to be challenged. So people shouldn't take offense, whether they're a Glober or whoever they are, because if I say something like, well, the ice wall, blah, 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 first thing I'm gonna go is gonna be some interjection from Nathan or a tenth. They're gonna go right at me, or even refractor. They're gonna come right at you. So people shouldn't get offended when they're challenged or when they're put on the stage because of what they come out of their face with. It's nothing offensive. No, it's not.
Hey, D, how do you think I feel when my brother, who told me about flat Earth, has not progressed at all, and you try to talk to somebody, and he starts talking about ice walls?
Well, I mean, hey, look,
and Admiral Byrd. I'm like, holy shit,
Yeah.
would you stop?
Or what would you rather have? Your brother do that, or say,
I'd rather
or
him
be the,
shut up while the mask is on.
okay, all right, got you.
We got the Black Swan, we got celestial navigation, we have theatrical out of container, and we have all the housekeeping questions. Just be quiet.
FYI,
Which
I've got my eldest daughter in here. She's here to stress the computer. So for all the things I can do to make the computer sweat, her roaming around in Minecraft currently has got the computer at almost 100 degrees at points. Unbelievable, really, that a kid can get the computer this stressed just by flying around in Minecraft. But there we go. That's what she's here to do, just to make sure it's okay under this amount of stress. It's just you look at Minecraft and go, surely this isn't that stressful. Yeah, bloody hell, it is. It really, really is. Anyway, I'm pleased. The computer's cooking away nicely. 91C. Excellent. All holding together nicely. I just don't want you swearing. That's all.
Got you. Now, Neil, how about this? My brother, on the other hand, posts something where it's like a short where there's one ignorant guy explaining to another ignorant guy. One is a flat earther, one is a globe. And his caption is, I'm not saying who this is, but this is how flat earthers sound. So he gives a straw man fallacy with this one guy who's arguing that the earth is flat, and then says something like this. And even if it has an axis, yada, yada, yada. So that was his way of saying that that's how we sound. Now, at first I was going,
Yeah, definitely. Probably on Tuesday, maybe next week, sometime Thursday. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, you broke off there, D Rose.
Well, yeah, I'm very pleased to hear it. It's all good.
There's something weird going on with D-Rose.
A bit weird going on with my attention. Like I say, this will hopefully be the last time ever I have to... Unless, of course, in the next 10 minutes, say that this computer does actually crash. As this is literally the most stressful. Unless it was live, which we're not. My point being, I don't mind there being a long show with lots of dead air on this occasion.
Okay.
That's not my invitation for you to not talk to each other and just sit here in silence on two different panels.
I'll yap. I'll do that. Now, I noticed yesterday I was watching Owen Benjamin on D Live, and he was bringing up. He made a whole item out of like what is light and that it doesn't have a speed and all that. It was interesting to see that he's doing that too. That he's going there.
Oh, okay. You like to see that he's got a like-minded inquiry path to us. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, because that guy actually has a massive audience. So he reaches very far and wide. So if he's going to say those types of things, that means that people are going to be more compatible, more agreeable to hear our side if they ever bump into us.
I see. No, I see. That makes sense. Can only be a good thing, I guess. If they're softened up to the notions that we disseminate here, that can only be a positive thing, I suppose.
Exactly. And I wonder where he's got it, though. Like, how did he pick up on that? Is he following the Flat Earth debates, or does he have some friends that are following the Flat Earth debates that are notifying him about it, about these subjects? Because he's having a daily show, so he's always looking for new subjects to talk about. So he might have picked it up.
Hey,
that
Arwen.
way. Yeah?
Yeah, I don't know exactly what video you're talking about, but you're talking about a topic like light, speed, you know? I mean, it's much older that light is instant than the newer philosophy that it has a speed. So it's like, I don't know if younger people think that light has a speed because we hear terms like light speed, but what you'll actually notice when you delve into it is the same old template that they use, which is this. They say it has a speed, but it's so fast, it's negligible. There is a curve, but the Earth's so big, the curve's negligible. In other words, it's there, you won't see it. It's there, you can't measure it.
I love that word.
So just saying, I mean, things like light, Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I was just saying I love that word, negligible, because when that word comes out of a glober's mouth, it means my claim that I'm making currently, you can't measure it or see it or observe it or anything. That's why I'm using that word.
Exactly.
I like it.
Exactly. And that's the template. Exactly. And that's the template. So you see that that same template used in light speed, which is another topic. Light's tricky, but just to be claiming facts like it has a speed and how fast that speed is, and think about how many things domino off of that information as fact that it does have a speed. Think of all the things that they've proposed from light speed, and you see how they get away with it. They can skip way down the road in Fanta like that if it's allowed to get past step one. Step one meaning like, well, hold on a second, is there a speed or not? If you can't say definitely, then it has to be clocked in as unknown, and it has to be left there. If there's a speed, we'll never know. It's beyond our...
It's just accepted like this, so this is what they gave it, and there's people that try to claim that they've measured it too, but I mean, it's just part of the framework of the science fiction cosmology now. So it's just set. That's how they think about it. Just like the
Exactly.
distance to the sun is set to a certain way, right? They have to set these parameters. They have to not shift them until they have to shift them because all the calculations suddenly don't work out anymore because of some new thing, right? And so it's just one of these parameters. They just set it like, this is now the speed. That's how we're going to model everything out.
Neil,
And this right
sorry.
there is part of the curation, right?
Neil.
See, it's like once they set it, they attach an image to it. The authority, meaning like that lady on the video today, the German accent, she has to know what she's talking about because she's saying it in a German accent, right? It goes along with the image. You know, there used to be a commercial. There used to be a commercial out, and there was a daytime actor on soap operas, and the commercial was he had a lab coat on. He says, "I'm not a doctor, but I played one on TV, and I'm about to tell you some doctor stuff." And he was selling an aspirin or something. Anyway, he comes out and says, "I'm not a doctor, but I play one on TV, and as you see, I'm wearing a lab coat." It's good enough of a mental image for the consumer to say, "I want that aspirin." That guy has convinced me watching him on soap operas that he knows enough about doctoring.
I love it.
There's something about the consumer's image.
It's a Friends plot, isn't it? It's Joey.
Favorite character.
Joey from Friends. Well, I'm also Dr. Drake Ramore from Days of Our Lives, so you can trust me when I tell you this aspirin's good.
Yeah. That's right. That's it.
It's a trusted character.
So, I mean, there's something about that. You'll notice back in the NASA. I mean, when you see an astronaut, you see the moon. He's on the moon. He's holding the flag, and the Earth is in the backdrop. That is a shot. That's a studio shot right there. I mean, you can't pose it, and they make sure it's all there. It's not really science, right? It's art, and it's for a mental image. I mean, they're not really there looking at the terrain itself, like, look at this terrain, right? They're doing donuts in a buggy. I mean, it's such a mockery. It's so actually cartoony, and just like Rayleigh posted in Discord here about North Korea landing on the sun. Landing on the sun, people. This is being told to civilians from the news. And this is how it works everywhere. If they can get away with it, they certainly will. Why would they do it, though?
It's
Take a breath, man.
Right?
Hold on.
It's the moolah.
Hello,
It's the
there's three
money.
people talking. Arwin first.
Yeah, it's unhinged science fiction is what it is. And there might be a method to the madness, as in that they do that being unhinged for a reason, so that people just kind of give up on it and just go with like, okay, whatever they say. Like they stop keeping track of it, and then they will be forced to kind of like, okay, whatever they say. Maybe.
But if
Because
I can
otherwise they're
interject-
just gone insane.
If I could just interject, yeah. While we were discussing that, I looked that up a little bit, and yeah, that came from a satirical site. So that was an article, but it came from a satirical site. So it's not. They didn't actually say that that's what happened. It's just like a bullshit site, like Babylon Bee or something like that.
The
Just a
Onion.
parody.
Sorry,
Yeah,
just want to make
something like
a
that.
technical note for myself, right? Of how proud I am of how sorted this computer is now. So to stress it, I got my kid to, as I say, play Minecraft. But while I was looking at it, going, wow, this really is getting very, very hot and very, very stressed. I wonder what the settings are. So I went into the settings and had a look at what I assume my daughter has set up. Right? She immediately denied it. No, I didn't change that setting. She'd set everything to maximum. So maximum frame rate and maximum render chunks, which is 90 chunks. If you're a Minecraft fan, you'll know what that means. But just the absolute balls to the wall maximum that this very CPU intensive task could be. And she's just flying around in the world with it rendering 90 chunks, which is just mad. And the CPU's, like I say, I think it hit 91. Previously, when I first got this computer, the same thing happened. It instantly crashed the computer. Instantly. Now, she's been doing it for about 20 minutes, flying around with 90 render chunk distance. And it's just doing it. It's not even overheating. I'm just very, very pleased, and I wanted to make a mental note to myself. This is that day where I've gone, wow, I'm actually impressed with it. Bloody hell. Anyway, thank you.
We're all pleased. Well done.
Well, did you hear anything? Yeah, I fell off. For some reason, my network thing said SOS. So I had to sign on to Wi-Fi. I don't
One
even know
second again.
where I got
Rotorox,
cut
please
off.
mute.
Huh?
Go ahead, D-Rose.
Yeah, I don't even know where I was when I was speaking, because next thing I know, I didn't hear any reply when I said, you know what I mean? And I looked up in my phone, and I was on my network, my Verizon network, and it just said SOS. It didn't say 5G. So I had to sign on to the Wi-Fi where I'm at. That's crazy. I got a call Verizon. Found I was
Dare
gone. I
you
never seen
interrupt
nothing
this
like
conversation with some technical nonsense about your phone? I was talking about
I'm
render
sorry.
distances and chunks. What an outrage.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to jinx your thing, but that was weird.
Yeah,
I don't
just
even know
an
where I
outrage.
was at.
Only I can talk about technical stuff.
Gotcha.
Did y'all see did y'all talk about the video yet from Taboo Conspiracy?
Yeah, we talked about it yesterday, both part 1 and part 2. Not like you to be a bit late on the old
What?
On the old train there, Eli. What gives? That's so yesterday. What's going on?
I mean, I'm the one. Well, I was doing some heavy promotion when it first came out, but I got I got some things going on, so I wanted to pop in because right now here is the only place I can actually get my flat Earth fill.
I think you'll find Brian was promoting it 2 weeks before it was released.
So what did you guys think about it? What was the
Epic.
What was the concern?
The simplest ones are always the best, right? If you're moving over a curved surface, then the stars are going to come up and over your head as you fall away around that curved surface. They don't do that. End of story. There is nothing else to discuss, right?
Yeah, you can share that with your grandma's grandma. You know what I'm saying? Like everybody will get that. So simple.
Yeah, I agree. Very simple.
Which one was that? The pilot destroys the globe or something like that?
Yeah, part 1 and part 2. It's showing the motion of the stars and how a logical inference based on us moving over a curved surface and descending, which they don't do, they fly nose up, would mean that you've got the stars moving over their relative ground positions, as you would expect, as you traverse the flat plane. Well, that's not in the slightest bit conducive with the stars moving up and over your head as you move down towards the pit, descending at 8 inches per mile squared. That is not what the stars do. And it just shows what the stars do. But with that being verbalized as he shows them. And suddenly you go, yeah, that makes perfect sense. Because, yeah, if you move over a ball and you've got stars that are claimed to be in fixed positions and the only reason they're turning in the first place is because we're rotating, as you traverse that curved surface, that would change the orientation of the stars with respect to you moving over a curved surface. And they don't.
Black Swan.
It's not a black swan, but it does, as we're talking about softening up audiences to ideas that we disseminate here, for somebody to get a notion of how the stars position themselves over the ground and how that's not conducive with a ball, when they then look further into, well, what else do the stars show us? That's where we come in, right? With advanced heliocentric debunking and advanced flat earth proof. But if you're not softened up to the notion that the stars are genuinely moving over a position on the ground that is trackable, predictable, and there's even books published that you can tell thousands of years literally ahead and prior where the stars would be above and exactly where they will be above now. Well, that's utilising a flat plane. The globe doesn't work with that. But we can navigate our way around Earth on it, you know, utilising the flat plane.
We can't formulate that into a motor stolen?
Sometimes things don't need to be put into a logical consistency argument. I mean, you can easily turn what Taboo's done into a modus tollens logical consistency, yes. But sometimes it's not required. You don't have to put it into a logical form to understand that the stars would be going up and over your head if you're falling down and around a ball. We're not, so it isn't. I mean, that maybe is a logical consistent form that I've given you there, but I don't know, I don't care to name it because I just don't think it's needed. It's so simple. Why complicate it?
I agree. You're right. You're right.
I think that's why the combination of the black swan and the celestial navigation is so devastating. Because to me, in my mind, I'm thinking, well, you've got this position, right? Let's call it that. That if you're on the ground, or let's say a foot off, your horizon's 1.2 miles away. But then from that same place, you're taking an angle measurement to a star that's, I don't know, could be 5,000 nautical miles away. I mean, that's insane. And that just doesn't, it doesn't mesh together in reality. Because if that position where you are, your observer height is causing this apparent position, I mean, how are you possibly measuring stars that are further than that with any type of specificity? Like it destroys itself.
Earth must be flat, and that's how it's dealt with. But with the computer rendering 90 chunks and 4 hours on the clock, having stressed the computer through a live show and everything we could possibly do in this 4 hours, a lot of dead air along the way, I'm very pleased to get to the end of this process and say a huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's after show possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of you in either Nathan Oakley 1980 and Nathan Oakley premiering streams for hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, joining as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, hitting me up on PayPal, and all that great stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!